Marvel crosses over with Star Wars, and the Avengers invade. This video is purely for entertainment, and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting, and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Reunion. Above the Rishi base, Grievous witnessed the entire process from the figure flying out of the base to the explosion of the base a few seconds later, which made him extremely angry. What happened? Who blew up the base? Grievous shouted. But isn't it a good thing that the base is destroyed? A robot asked doubtfully. Grievous angrily called out idiot and immediately ordered the fleet to leave Rishi immediately. Suddenly, an entire Republic fleet appeared before his fleet, outnumbering and outgunning his fleet. Republic fleet, Grievous said angrily. Our plan has failed. Get out of here now. Echo and several other clones witnessed the entire Separatist fleet's hasty escape from Rishi. The Separatists are on the run, Echo said cheerfully. Thanks to you 5, Cody praised. Especially you, Colonel Rhodes. We will take you back to your comrades. Rex said directly to War Machine. Thank you very much, Captain Rex. War Machine said sincerely. Look. The funny guy pointed above his head. Gunship. Rex said lightly. The armed helicopters detached from the spacecraft slowly landed, and then clone soldiers opened the hatches for them. Come on, guys, it's time to get out of here. Rex motioned for them to board the plane. Afterwards, War Machine was taken to a huge battleship he had never seen before in a helicopter attack. As an Air Force officer, this made his blood boil. He's in outer freaking space. He's a real Air Force. This was crazy to War Machine. Although he had often flown at low altitudes before, he never thought that he would reach outer space one day. War Machine calmed down and began to recall what had just happened. Obviously, Rex and Cody knew about the Avengers and had met his 3 comrades. As for whether they were friends or enemies, it was still difficult to tell, but they had no choice because they were the only ones who knew the news about Captain America, Falcon and Ant-Man. As soon as the helicopter landed on the deck of the warship, a middle-aged man with a big beard and a young man came over. The middle-aged man said, Cody, I didn't expect that the task of checking Richie would suddenly become complicated. It's just a routine operation for us, because we are soldiers, General Kenobi. Cody saluted. Who blew up the base? Anakin Skywalker asked. All of us, sir, Captain Rex said, pointing at himself, the rookie squad, and War Machine. Who is this? Kenobi asked. War Machine's helmet flipped back, revealing his face. You look familiar, Skywalker said, narrowing his eyes at War Machine. Rex spoke up. Sir, this is Colonel James Rhodes, also known as War Machine. Kenobi suddenly realized, the Avengers. Yes, you look familiar. Your captain showed me a picture of you guys. They briefed us on your situation, and it looks like we lines learn a lot more about all of you, Anakin said. War Machine asked confusedly, what do you mean? In less than a few days, you, the Avengers, took the initiative to join this war and help the people of the Republic and our soldiers, Obi-Wan said in a grateful tone. Don't tell the generals what they say, Colonel. Because of you, our team was able to survive in Rishi, Herbie said seriously. We can send you back to Coruscant to meet your teammates first. This is what we should do. Because of your help, we can arrive in Rishi in time to resist Grievous and his fleet, Anakin said. Honestly, a lot of things are beyond my understanding. What I need to confirm now is that you can help me find my teammates, War Machine said frankly. Of course, Anakin said with a smile, finding War Machine's genuine sincerity endearing. Before leaving, they held a small ceremony for 5, Echo, Heavy, and Stooge, as Rex decided to reward them for their bravery and reassign them to the 501st. Anakin and Obi-Wan were also present, affirming their bravery and stating that he would gladly fight alongside them on any battlefield. When the 2 Jedi left, one clone couldn't help but speak out what had been bothering him. With all due respect, sir, we really do not deserve this honor as we failed to complete the mission of defending the base and lost many brothers, Echo said seriously. But you took the initiative and were ready to fight, Cody said. Even with the help of Colonel Rhodes, the 4 of you still held the base and showed me that you are the kind of soldiers I need. Rex said proudly. Domino Bone Squad, welcome to the 501st Legion. From this moment on, you are no longer rookies, everyone. In the team stood straight, with their heads held high and their chests puffed out, and saluted Rex and Cody in a standard manner. Yes, sir. Why did Anakin and Obi-Wan call us here? Ant-Man asked his two companions. At this time, Captain America, Falcon, and Ant-Man were standing at the entrance of the Jedi Temple, with Yoda and Windu also present. They said they wanted to give us a surprise, Falcon said. Yoda nodded. The Falcon, who had been looking up at the sky, opened his eyes wide and noticed something flying towards them. Captain. Falcon shouted loudly, waving excitedly at the familiar figure flying towards him. Captain America and Ant-Man both looked up, and their reactions were the same as Falcon's. They were completely caught off guard by this sudden surprise. War Machine James Rhodes landed in front of them in style, then opened his helmet and walked towards his friend. It's great to see you guys, man. War Machine said with a happy smile. He high-fived Captain America, Falcon, and Ant-Man, and then hugged each other tightly. Anakin and Obi-Wan also jumped out of the gunship and walked up to them with a smile. Captain America nodded gratefully to the two men, then asked, "How did you find him?" "It was really a complete accident, just like how you found Mr. Scott," Kenobi said. Everyone looked at War Machine, only to see him staring at Mace Windu in confusion. This was completely expected by Captain America and the other three. They believed that other people would have the same reaction as they did when they saw Windu in the near future. After all, Windu really looked too much like Nick Fury. Rhodes. Falcon looked at War Machine and said seriously, "We are going to fight side by side again, my comrade." The four of them looked at each other and smiled. Chapter 27 Palpatine's Test. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine of the Galactic Republic stood at the huge curved window of his private office, looking out at the busy skyline of the planet Coruscant. Every day, with the sky as the background, there is an endless stream of hovercrafts crossing each other, and office workers, civilians, and workers are busy day and night. A sinister smile appeared on Palpatine's face as he mentally counted down the days until the Galactic Republic would finally fall, and in its place, the Sith Empire, which had hidden in darkness for 1,000 years, would rise again and rule the galaxy. However, the huge shockwaves within the Force foreshadowed that something extraordinary was about to happen, something that would change the way the galaxy operated. He could feel it, as could everyone who was sensitive to the Force, especially the GD. Chancellor Palpatine. Captain Steve Rogers has arrived as invited and is waiting at the door. "Thank you. Please invite him in." Palpatine put on a friendly look. The door to the office opened, and the star-studded leader of the Avengers walked in carrying his iconic shield. "Hello, Chancellor Palpatine. I heard you were looking for me?" Captain America asked politely. Yes, my distinguished guest," Palpatine said kindly, pointing to the chair in front of the desk. "Please take a seat, Captain." Cap nodded, placing his shield next to his chair and sitting across from Palpatine. "I hope you and your friends have a great time on Coruscant," Palpatine chatted. "The Temple and the GD have always taken great care of us." Captain America nodded. "This is what they should do, and the people of Naboo and the Republic are very grateful for what you and your teammates have done," Palpatine said. "We are not as great as you say. Speaker, with all due respect, in a galactic war, the size of 2 planets is insignificant at best, so what we have done is not worth mentioning," Captain America said frankly. "Despite your modesty, the defense of Naboo and the notification of the Republic to the Separatist invasion of the clone homeworld of Kamino were not what you would call trivial matters, Captain Rogers," Palpatine said, interlacing his fingers. "You may view them as small actions before a larger war, but many do not see them that way, especially the people of my homeworld of Naboo. I'm glad to hear that you have been reunited with your comrade Colonel Rhodes, who played a major role in informing the Republic of the Separatist invasion plans. Speaker, to be honest, everything you said was a subconscious reaction from your perspective. We didn't think too much about it. We simply didn't want so many innocent lives to be sacrificed in the war. As for Rhodes's behavior, he explained to me immediately that he helped Rish's clone soldiers fight back against the robot army because that was the only feasible way to reunite with us. Captain America said, looking directly at Palpatine. My God, apart from the Jedi Order, I haven't met many people who are so humble, but Captain, you are truly the most special one I have ever met. Palpatine said with a smile. I try to learn from them, Chancellor. Steve said with a humorous smile, but if you look closely, there is no smile in his eyes. Palpatine did not notice this. It seems that you have never tried it before. Palpatine made a joke, then frowned, but I feel a little ashamed now, Speaker. You have done a lot for the Republic, and yet, the Jedi Order and the Republic have not really rewarded you by allowing you to temporarily reside in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. This really makes me ashamed. Palpatine shook his head and said, Chancellor Palpatine, we are not here to— Palpatine interrupted Captain America and said, I know, Captain Rogers. But from my point of view, I can't just provide you and your teammates with a room to live in temporarily. If you are willing, you and your teammates will become the most distinguished members of the Republic. Besides, no citizen of the Galactic Republic will treat guests or heroes like this. On this point, I stick to my point of view. Of course, no matter what, I will ask someone to help you find several other teammates, and no matter what you ask for, I will try my best to meet it. Captain America couldn't help but widen his eyes and looked at Palpatine in disbelief. The conditions offered by the head of the centralized galactic government were too good to be true. However, Captain America understands that the operating mechanisms of governments of any form and size are essentially no different from those of people in society, and they all seek benefits and avoid harm. Point from the book given to him by Aula Secura. Captain America learned that not only the Galactic Republic, but the history of the entire galaxy was no different from the government on Earth, and was even more cruel. Palpatine seems to be a kind and benevolent person, but he has a charm that matches his status, which is enough to show that he is far more than he seems. From another perspective, the supreme leader of a democratic alliance country that is many times larger than the Earth is more than just kind and benevolent. But Palpatine's proposal was indeed tempting. On a strange world, nothing was more important than finding teammates and bringing them home safely. Captain America can't deny that they might not even be able to solve the problem of interstellar travel without help. Logically, he can use anything he can to find his other teammates and return to Earth. But now, they have inadvertently been drawn into a galactic war on the side of the Galactic Republic. Now, as news spreads like wildfire across various media, their actions have spread across the galaxy twice, undoubtedly causing the wrath of the Separatist factions. To be honest, after learning a lot about the entire war, he did not think that the right and wrong between the CIs and the Republic were black and white. Just like Black Widow taught him before how to thoroughly analyze both sides of a war. What you think is justice is not necessarily justice. Both sides may be deeply at fault. After he had a general understanding of the history of the galaxy, he discovered that most wars in the galaxy were not simply caused by one side instigating the war and the other side actually doing nothing until they had no choice but to passively join the war. But there were many complex reasons. Captain America collected his thoughts, stood up from his seat, looked at Palpatine and said, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your kindness and selfless help to us. I will consider your proposal very seriously. After I go back, I will discuss it with other teammates and we will consider it carefully. Captain America's word cautious made Palpatine frown implicitly, but he still said jokingly, then please take some time to think about it carefully, Captain Rogers, but please be quick. After all, there is still a war going on. Okay. Captain America frowned and replied with his eyelids lowered. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Palpatine's Other Identity. Palpatine silently observed Captain America's reaction. Then he asked, Captain Rogers, what do you think of this war? A man like you who has experienced many battles and has extraordinary talents must have his own opinions on war. Palpatine's seemingly polite and respectful words are actually meant to force Captain America to speak up, and it is also a subtle test of this mysterious outsider's views on the current war. Captain America looked at the top leader of the Galactic Republic for a while, thinking about this question silently. His eyes drifted out the window and saw several large helicopters roaring past. Their hatches opened, and clone squadrons from various legions quickly got off the planes. Regarding this war, or any war, it is not something people want to see, but sometimes in order to prevent larger conflicts, such necessary measures and actions must be taken. Captain America said slowly. The Republic and the Jedi have worked hard to avoid this war, Palpatine said. However, it still moved along its planned orbit like a satellite, Captain America said bluntly. Palpatine acted very magnanimous, waved his hand and continued, perhaps you are right to some extent. Although the Republic has tried, and did try to prevent the war, in the end this war is indeed inevitable. When I reflect on all our actions, I find that all we can do is to delay the inevitable. War is one of the many things that is destined to repeat itself in history, and sometimes it is always inevitable. Captain America's tone carried the wisdom unique to Earthlings. Captain Rogers, I never thought of you as a philosophical person, Palpatine said in a joking tone. A good soldier's ability lies in his mind, not his sword, Captain America said in a saintly tone. Oh, who said that? Palpatine asked with interest. Someone on my planet said something similar, at least I think so, Captain America explained. Palpatine chuckled and leaned back in his chair to make himself comfortable. Captain Rogers, you are such a special person. From what I have seen of your teammates, to your own feats on Naboo and your recently met teammate named Rhodes, do you think there are other people like you somewhere in the galaxy? The speaker asked calmly, as if chatting with old friends. Yes, there are still 5 people. I really hope they are okay, Captain America said. He really missed those teammates who fought side by side with him. Palpatine showed empathy and said, I sincerely hope that everything is going well for them. Captain America said confidently, they can take care of themselves. All of them can adapt to their situations and do what they need to do, no matter when and where they are. That's quite a lot of confidence, Palpatine said, showing his admiration. Then he sighed and said, how I wish I could trust everyone in the team like you do, but unfortunately there are too few people I can trust. Captain America said with deep feeling, you must believe in your friends. Sometimes they are all you have. Palpatine simply shook his head and smiled slightly. Captain Rogers, I thought I was knowledgeable enough, but compared to you, you possess greater wisdom than I do, Captain. America just smiled faintly again. He couldn't help but feel more and more uncomfortable around him. Maybe it was the air, maybe he was just homesick, but there were many things that bothered him since he came here, because this scene felt too familiar in his mind, but he couldn't remember it for a while and couldn't catch the fleeting thoughts. Captain America stood up from his seat and said, Dear Speaker, please forgive my impoliteness. My teammate Rhodes and I just reunited not long ago, so I want to leave first and go back to the temple to catch up with him. Of course, I understand. Captain Rogers, please remember that, even if you reject my offer to help you and your comrades still stands. Palpatine stood up from his seat, extended his hand and said sympathetically. Cap simply nodded and shook the man's hand before grabbing his shield and slinging it over his back before leaving the Chancellor's office. As soon as he left, Palpatine's warm and polite expression disappeared and he slowly sat down in the chair with a frown. I thought that these newcomers would gladly accept the friendly olive branch I extended to them because of the unfamiliar environment. But now it seems that this is not the case. He could sense that for some reason, things were not going as he expected. This Captain Rogers was not as easily swayed as he had initially expected. From today's conversation, Palpatine saw that he was not someone who could be easily fooled. But this is not important, because for Palpatine as the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic this is indeed difficult, but for his other identity as the Sith Lord Sidious, it won't be long before he either makes the Avengers support him personally or completely keeps them away from this war. Both can be accomplished in a timely manner. Sidious suddenly felt his nose and eyes twitching at the same time, and a feeling of nervousness enveloped him. Gritting his teeth, the Sith Lord forced himself to calm down. What had just happened to the Force? He had never felt such a suffocating sense of frustration before. Was it really because of the arrival of these Avengers? Then it meant that he had to speed up his plans carefully. Palpatine turned slowly toward the window, his eyes fixed on the Jedi temple not far away. The site of the Sith's ancient enemy lay before him. This temple would once again fall under Sith control when the time was right, just as it had so many centuries ago. Although he could not see him, Palpatine could sense him, and through repeated attempts, Sidious expanded his senses in the Force and was able to find Jedi Master Yoda. The little green goblin, Master Yoda, is in his own meditation room, surrounded by the Force. In fact, since the initial changes in the Force, the entire Jedi temple has been on high alert, and this alert was not for a short period of time. The more Sidious thought about it, the more anxious he seemed to become. The Force had changed. What did it mean this time? What would it lead to? He knew that matters concerning the Force could not be ignored, and since it had not calmed down for a long time this time, and it happened to be after these Avengers came to the galaxy, he could not help but connect the changes in the Force with these people. He vaguely felt that this would most likely lead to some unforeseen consequences. It seems that he needs to start investigating the whole matter as soon as possible, instead of sitting in the office and pondering it. The more he thinks, the more mistakes he makes. Chapter 29. Captain America's new friends in the Galactic Republic. Meanwhile, in the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda was suspended above his seat, in a trance, letting the Force completely envelop him. At this moment, the door opened, Yoda exhaled, and slowly lowered his body back to his seat. Master Windu, I sense that you are troubled, Yoda said calmly. Is it that easy to tell? Windu asked dryly, sitting in front of Master Yoda. Everyone has troubles, Lord Windu. Don't have to worry too much, Yoda said with ease and humor. Mace Windu sighed tiredly, crossing his legs and leaning forward. What happened, Master? All the Jedi Knights in the entire temple, and even all the Force-sensitive people in the entire galaxy, are ready to make a move, Windu asked seriously. Kit Fisto was here before you. Don't overthink it, Master Windu. The Force, it's in a constant state of fluctuation, but since the arrival of the Avengers, the fluctuations in the Force have been too strange, Windu said. It's not their fault, is it? Windu frowned and thought for a moment, then raised his head and said, it's not necessarily related to them, it's more like activating something we don't understand yet. You have this premonition? Yoda asked curiously. Maybe. But the incredible thing about this fluctuation of the Force is that it is neither like the dark side nor like the light side. Windu just nodded to himself. You are right, it is just the Force. It is constantly changing, which means that a greater unknown change is about to come. So, we just need to let nature take its course, as the Force wishes. Master Yoda nodded and said, but these 4 people, and even the other 5 who are currently missing, are unlike anything we have seen in the galaxy. They have no Force, nothing. How can they be part of the will of the Force? Windu said, stroking his chin. I do not know. They say their coming was accidental, though the Force knew what changes they would bring, or perhaps it was indeed an accidental event unrelated to the Force, said Yoda. So what does this mean for us? What does this mean for the Jedi? The Republic? Maybe even the entire galaxy? Windu asked. Yoda closed his eyes again and reached out to the Force once more, feeling the everlasting vitality it continued to radiate. Whether it is related to the Force or not, all we can do now is to continue observing, Yoda said, opening his eyes. What if the Force gives a negative response? Windu asked seriously. Do what we must, and the Force will do it too, Yoda said firmly. Captain America, the source of all this, left the Republic Administration building and stood in the bustling city of Coruscant. He exhaled a little tiredly, and the busy city life scene in front of him was too much for him to take in. He felt out of place here, and looking around, Captain America suddenly felt at a loss because he couldn't find the way to the GD temple. He tried to figure out where he was. The guards who had taken him to the Chancellor's office might have completely forgotten about him, let alone that he was lost. When he was about to ask a passerby for directions, Captain Rogers, he turned around and saw two familiar faces, Senator Amidala. Captain America said respectfully, "You are Senator Chucky." Chucky, the blue-skinned alien corrected politely. "Sorry, I always can't remember a lot of people's names." Captain America said apologetically, "Captain, are you okay? You seem a little." Padme asked, "Lost?" Chucky was not as tactful as Padme, pretty much. "I need to get back to the docking bay in the administration building and then make my way back to the GD temple," Cap admitted frankly. "Oh, well, we can give you a ride if you want," Chucky said. "Would that be too much trouble for you?" Captain America said, "It's no trouble at all, and it's nothing compared to what you've done for me and the people of Naboo." Amidala waved him to follow, giving him a friendly smile. "After all, you did save our lives." Chucky also reminded with a smile, "The people of my home planet already know what you did, and you saved my sister and niece. I owe you a debt of gratitude that I can never truly repay," Padme said again. Captain America blinked, then smiled slightly. "Well, you're the second person to say that to me today," Padme said again, and Chucky were a little confused when they heard this. "The second one," Padme said. "Who was the first?" "Chancellor Palpatine. He just called me to his office for a brief conversation," Captain America replied. Now both senators were curious, and Chucky asked, "What's going on?" "We just chatted about some small things. He said he wanted to thank me personally for everything Ant-Man, Falcon and I did on Naboo," Captain America said calmly. "Well, that's understandable. You played an important role in repelling the Separatist invasion, and as you know, Naboo is not only Padme's hometown, but also the Speaker's hometown." Chucky didn't think too much about it. He said the same thing, Captain America said, frowning. Padme noticed his expression. "What is it, Captain?" Steve raised the corners of his mouth slightly and said sincerely, "Please, senators, there is no need to call me Captain all the time. You can call me Steve Rogers." "Ah, then I insist that you call me Padme." Captain America smiled, nodded, and then hesitantly said, "As for what happened, it's actually nothing. During the time we stayed here, he provided me and my teammates with what?" Chucky couldn't help but ask curiously. "He's offering us the opportunity to use whatever resources he can to find the rest of my teammates who may be scattered across the galaxy." Both women's eyes widened. There was something obviously unnatural about Palpatine's suggestion. "That's a tricky question," Padme said. "To be honest, this kind of reward far exceeded my expectations. My teammates and I only helped twice in total, and the war in the galaxy has been going on for several months. To be honest, this situation feels a little familiar," Captain America said thoughtfully. "What do you mean?" Chucky asked. "I'll tell that to ladies when I get a chance." "Well," Padme said thoughtfully, "I really appreciate everything you and your teammates have done for me in my homeland. To be honest, I'm forever grateful, Steve. Your actions are often more memorable than your words. You will always be my friend," Chucky said with a smile. "And me, if you need any help, please just ask," Padme said with a gentle smile. "I don't know how I can help, but if there is a need, I will do my part," Chucky added. "Ladies, I really appreciate it, but I always feel like I'm taking advantage of you by asking you for help, so I would rather not do such a thing," Captain America said seriously. Padme admired this human from Earth more and more, and said approvingly, "You speak like a GD." "I don't know much about the GD," Steve shrugged. Padme just smiled at him and said, "Well, in order to prevent you from feeling that I'm taking advantage of you, how about helping me with one or two things within my ability? This seems fairer," Chucky said jokingly. Captain America wanted to refuse, because on this strange planet, he was always on guard, and any exchange or benefit would bring unpredictable risks. But he felt that Padme was not as unpredictable as Chancellor Palpatine, and her eyes and gestures gave people the feeling that she had no other intentions, and she always showed her sincerity. Thank you. This means a lot to me, and my friends will appreciate it too, Captain America said sincerely. Patton was a little annoyed that Captain America was always so polite, and said in annoyance, I just said that we are friends. There is no need to be so polite. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. Chapter 30 Adults and Children. Accompanied by Senator Amidala and Chucky, Captain America was sent to the GD temple. Then he said goodbye to his two friends and went alone to his temporary guest room in the temple. When I couldn't find the way, I asked some GD knights passing by and slowly walked closer to where I lived. It felt more and more familiar, and then I found my room quickly. As he approached the corridor, he could hear the humming of machines coming from their rooms, along with laughter and voices. Captain America frowned and walked across his room to the room in front, where the sound came from. Entering the room, he found Falcon, Ant-Man, and War Machine all wearing new costumes, as well as some young GD Padawans who looked to be in their teens, and the rest were still children, including Jocastanu, the chief librarian of the GD Temple Archives. She had a pleasant and patient conversation with Ant-Man, as he seemed to chatter away from time to time, while she patiently pointed out the uses of various tools, and explained in detail how to use each tool. Falcon has his own set of tools, but like War Machine, they come from the Avengers base in upstate New York. War Machine was the first to notice Cap enter the room. Hey, Cap. Everyone's attention turned to him, and many of the young men looked up at Captain America in surprise. Hey, guys. I see you guys are busy, Cap greeted, looking around the room. I'm sitting around doing nothing now, so I might as well do something. I'm going to get my armor repaired, War Machine said as he tapped his helmet. Where did you get these tools? They are all from Earth, Captain America asked. That's all thanks to Ant-Man, War Machine said, looking at Ant-Man who was fiddling with the optical components on his helmet and nodded. Ant-Man heard what War Machine said, looked up at Captain America, and said, Hope and I have been working on some new things with Hank. Our protective suits were originally equipped with the basic tools and equipment needed to repair the suits, to ensure their normal operation. Scott elaborated. Ant-Man concentrated on sliding the optics through its eyelets as he continued, so we now have some upgrades to many areas of the suit, to give us more combat functionality, as well as provide some necessary upgrades to the rest of the team. Ant-Man said, resting his helmet on his knees, and supporting his arms. I have a lot of tools in my belt, but not all of them. I only have half, but at least I can make some upgrades to the suit. Who has a significant other? Hope, yeah. Hope they are all okay, Ant-Man said with a frown. We'll find them, Captain America said firmly. He felt a tug on his leg, and looked down to see a young GD Padawan looking up at him curiously. If he remembered correctly, the young GD Padawan was a Togruta. His skin was brown-orange with grey horns and green horizontal stripes. Hey, hello. What can I do for you, little guy? Captain America greeted warmly. The children's faces scrunched up as they tried to find the right words to express what they meant. Is it true that you are heroes of your world? The young GD asked. Captain America blinked, and the other children looked at him curiously. Where did you hear that? Captain America asked with interest, a smile flashing in his eyes. The little GD turned around without saying a word, and pointed at Ant-Man who was wiping his helmet. Captain America just looked at this man who had a criminal record in the Avengers, and felt a little funny. Did Ant-Man really say that? You do realize that you are part of the team, right? Captain America said. Don't worry about him. He's just a kid at heart. Falcon waved his hand hastily. A child who never grows up. What is that? Several young men in the GD temple asked in confusion. Meaning a guy Ant-Man's age still acts like he's 12. War Machine quipped. You guys can be annoying sometimes, Ant-Man said helplessly. So are you all heroes? Asked another Twi'lek child. You could say that, in a way. Captain America told him with an air of mystery, causing some of the kids to look up at him excitedly. Really? Asked the Togruta boy. Oh, yes. We are known as Earth's mightiest heroes, Falcon admitted carelessly. This left Captain America speechless. Why? Asked a little GD girl. Because we help everyone we can, War Machine explained. The children looked at each other with admiration and excitement. "Can we be heroes like you?" asked another little Twi'lek girl. "Well, as far as we know, the Jedi Knights are called the Protectors of the Galaxy. This means that this is not a hypothetical question, but that you will become your own hero sooner or later." Ant-Man touched the little girl's head and said with an encouraging look. The little girl just smiled shyly, blushing a little at the praise. The rest of the children chattered happily until Jocasta said it was time for them to eat something. But the children, who were curious about the heroes, did not want the conversation to end there. They hummed and moaned in protest, but when they saw Jocasta's stern look, they quieted down. Jocasta begins to lead the kids out, while thanking the Avengers for being so kind to the kids. When there were no outsiders around, Falcon, Ant-Man, and War Machine began to repair their equipment to keep them ready for combat at any time. "So, Captain, how did your meeting with Chancellor Palpatine go?" Falcon asked. Captain America crossed his arms and frowned, recalling his entire exchange with Palpatine. Captain America said, "He was willing to help us during our time in the Galactic Republic." "Really? What kind of help?" Ant-Man asked as he looked up while repairing his armor. "The kind that's a blank check," Captain America said lightly. "But, Captain? From your tone, this doesn't seem like a good thing." War Machine asked Captain America, "What's wrong, Captain? Is there anything abnormal?" Falcon also stopped what he was doing and asked, "Because of the Force. I heard these children and other Jedi Knights talking about it. Although I don't know what the Force is specifically, it sounds very mysterious." Ant-Man asked loudly. Captain America smiled at Ant-Man's words, thinking there was some truth in them. But he knew better. "You can say that, but it's not entirely because of the Force. I just feel that he is very familiar with us and understands us very well." Captain America muttered to himself. Finally, he locked eyes with Falcon, conveying the message, "You know what I'm talking about." Falcon narrowed his eyes and nodded in understanding. War Machine sighed. "Okay, so what do we do now?" However, he wasn't the only one who offered to help us. Senator Amidala and Chucky also offered to help us. Captain America said, "That sounds good," War Machine said without hesitation, "but they should be different from Palpatine." Captain America said, after thinking for a moment. "So what should we do?" War Machine asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Captain America remained silent, trying to figure out the current situation so that they could decide their next move in the galaxy. His comrades had taken the initiative to learn about the galaxy and its administrative system during this period. There is also the issue of the ongoing war, which is apparently so widespread that it affects everyone in the galaxy. Even planets like Naboo, which are Republic strongholds, are shown to be within the scope of this conflict, and innocent civilians across the universe are constantly threatened by the war. While he didn't fully understand them, the Jedi seemed to be one of the few who were willing to protect the people of the galaxy. His thoughts ended with the sound of brisk footsteps and the regular tapping of his cane on the ground. Chapter 31. Finding teammates and officially joining the war. Master Yoda walked in alone. "So, you are all here." Yoda greeted. "Master Yoda, what can we do for you?" Captain America asked respectfully. "This is a question many people have asked today. Come, take a seat. I think we have a lot to talk about," Yoda said, raising his hand and forcefully moving a few chairs for himself and Captain America. Captain America nodded and sat down in front of Yoda, while the goblin-like Jedi Master looked at the leader of the Avengers with a critical eye. Yoda mumbled for a moment and closed his eyes. "Master?" Captain America called softly. "I'm sorry, Captain Rogers. I have a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure you do too," Yoda said. "Am I that easy to see through?" Captain America asked humorously. Yoda said with a knowing smile, "While it is understandable, your current mindset is that the galaxy is not your world, and the galaxy's conflicts are not your conflicts, Captain." America nodded, acknowledging this freely, his eyes darkening as he thought of the Clone Wars raging outside. "Change is coming. Your arrival in the galaxy was unexpected, and the Force gave no warning of your coming," Yoda said simply. "What is this Force you keep talking about?" "We've been hearing people talking about it since we got here," Ant-Man suddenly asked. Falcon was equally curious and expressed his guess. This force sounds like some kind of religion. You just said that the force did not tell you of our arrival. What does that mean? Will the force talk to you? Captain America asked, grasping the key point. Yoda blinked, a strange look coming across his face. Then he spoke in his sage way. The force is what binds all life. It is what gives power to all Jedi. It binds us, guides us, and enables us to do its will. That sounds too broad. How do you know what this force wants? War Machine couldn't help but ask. Yoda said frankly, we don't know either. The force is a mystery that all Jedi have been learning and studying for a long time. For thousands of years, we have been exploring. But one thing is certain, the Jedi will never use the force for personal gain. But even so, sometimes, even we will fail, and it has been like this for thousands of years. It's like an inescapable spell. Because of the war. Captain America already knew what failure Master Yoda was referring to. The Jedi Master nodded affirmatively. We tried everything, but we couldn't stop the war. When the force was shrouded in darkness, it caused many to die in the war. I don't think even the force can prevent something like war from happening. Falcon deadpanned. Captain America also had no good feelings towards a war, and said in a deep voice, the more people try to prevent something like this from happening, the more inevitable it becomes. Yoda stared at Captain America with tired, but hearty eyes and praised, Captain Rogers, you are very wise, Master. Yoda, compared to the experience you have accumulated, I'm still far behind. Captain America said with a smile. Yoda laughed at this, a warm smile on his old face. Sometimes the old need to learn from the young. When the war is over, those who survive must forge a better path for the galaxy. This is what we all really hope for, Captain America said sincerely. What are your plans next? Yoda asked. The four Avengers exchanged glances, not knowing how to respond. The only thing they wanted to do was, we need to find the rest of the team. They must be somewhere in the galaxy right now, but we don't know exactly where. Captain America said firmly. Honestly, we are lucky to have found each other so quickly, Falcon said, gesturing toward the current team, but others may not be so lucky. What should we do then? Yoda asked again. Well, Steve considered whether he should say this, then looked at Master Yoda and said, before I returned to the temple, I was taken to the office of the Speaker of the Republic. Yoda was shocked by this as it was totally unexpected for him. Continue. Captain America told Master Yoda in detail what happened in Palpatine's office. When he finished speaking, Master Yoda fell into deep thought, probably thinking about something. Captain Rogers, what do you think? Yoda asked. The conditions offered by the speaker sounded too good to be true, and he could provide us with countless resources when we were looking for other teammates, but he gave me the feeling that something was wrong. Of course, this is just my feeling. Falcon shook his head, remembering their past adventures on Earth. Yoda stroked his chin and fell into deep thought, feeling a little uneasy about what the Chancellor did behind the Jedi Temple. The Avengers were guests of the Jedi Temple, but Palpatine suddenly appeared and seemed to be showing goodwill to the Avengers. What was the ulterior motive behind this? Yoda felt that this method was too familiar. In fact, thinking back carefully, Palpatine had done something like this before. How do you respond? Yoda asked. Captain America scratched the back of his head, thinking about Palpatine's proposal, and then said, I said I would consider it. But at that time, I felt that I was very close to rejecting him directly in person. This caused Yoda to raise his brow in surprise. Smart. Are you sure? Captain America blatantly said in front of Yoda. I don't believe him. I just have a hunch that something is wrong with the speaker, but I can't explain it. Yoda looked at Captain America meaningfully and said, Captain Rogers, don't let anyone interfere with you. Do what you want to do, but always stay alert. Well, Master Yoda. There was silence for a long moment, until Yoda finally asked, what are you going to do now? Captain America said seriously, I'm not sure, but my intuition tells me that we can't just sit in the temple and wait comfortably, pinning our hopes on others. We may never find them. There is a huge war raging in the galaxy right now, and our teammates may be caught up in it, so I think we need to go out and take the initiative to find our teammates. Other words, we should participate in this war so that it may be easier to find our other teammates. War Machine explained for Captain America. Yoda sat up straight and faced the Avengers with a hard gaze. Are you sure you all think so? We will always carry out the captain's orders unwaveringly. The three said in unison. Yoda nodded and turned to face Captain America again. They both raised their hands and shook hands without saying a word. An unspoken understanding was reached between them. The Avengers are now officially part of the Clone Wars. Suddenly, Yoda's communicator rang, and he pulled out his communication device and asked, Obi-Wan, what's going on? Master Yoda, we need you. Master Plo Koon and Skywalker wish to confer with the Council. Obi-Wan Kenobi's voice came from the other end. Yoda said he was on his way back, then looked back at the four Avengers, smiled and asked, will you join me? The four of them looked at each other, and Captain America smiled slightly. Do you even need to ask this? Chapter 32 Blind faith is not the key to victory. Colonel James Rhodes is many things, a soldier, an Air Force pilot, and his best friend is Tony Stark. But most importantly, now he's a hero, a member of the Avengers known as War Machine. So when Rhodes found himself standing in the bowels of a Venator-class Star Destroyer, he couldn't deny how small he felt as he stared out into space. He and the rest of his team were suited up, ready for the mission ahead. He glanced back at the busy clones behind him, and found that Falcon was among the team of pilots who were showing Falcon how to fly a Republic starfighter. In the vast space, a fleet of starships is advancing. Are you okay, Rhodes? Captain America asked War Machine, who was obviously in a bad state. It's alright, Captain, War Machine said absent-mindedly, his eyes wandering through the blackness of space dotted with shining stars in the distance. It looks like you have a lot of troubles, Captain America said, standing next to War Machine with his arms folded. War Machine hummed, then shook his head as another squadron of V-19 Torrent starfighters sped by. Wonder what Tony was thinking when he went through that wormhole over New York, War Machine muttered. Captain America frowned and looked at his comrade. He saw a complex expression of curiosity, hesitation, fear, and contradiction on War Machine's face. When he saw what was out there, it completely changed him, and he tried to cover it up the best he could. But he's been living with the weight of it for years, War Machine whispered. War Machine turned and looked directly at Cap. That's how Ultron was created. What caused the Avengers to switch? Captain America looked at War Machine in silence. Captain, what impact will this war have on us? War Machine asked bluntly. This is a rather poignant question, as both men have lost considerable numbers in many battles over the years, and both understand that only by abandoning the ego can one shape and change one's fundamental values and principles. Captain America also confessed, I'm not sure. The only real reason we are doing this is to find our other teammates. I totally agree with that. But what about after that? What do we do when we find all our teammates? Because I'm pretty sure we won't always be as lucky as when the four of us meet each other. War Machine responded. I know, Rhodes, I know. Captain America said, scratching his head. He felt frustrated with himself for not knowing what to do next in this completely unfamiliar environment. I'm just following my instincts here, even though I know it may lead us into a worse situation. The most important thing now is that we are short of manpower, and some important team members are either missing on the distant Earth or in other parts of the universe. War Machine could only sigh and look back into space. Captain, you know I don't mean to be nagging like that. I just want to know if this is the right path for us. War Machine said apologetically. Now, I think finding other people is the only thing we need to do right now, because in a galaxy that we are completely unfamiliar with, there is not much we can do. For the rest, we can only take one step at a time and make plans for the next step after we slowly understand it. Captain America said directly. What happens when we know enough? War Machine asked, centering on the underlying question of them not being on Earth anymore. We develop independently without arousing suspicion, and we don't rely on any forces, Steve said. But don't arouse suspicion. We left the Earth too suddenly, and the Earth was not prepared for this at all. So in addition to finding our teammates, returning home is the first priority. War Machine nodded his agreement, and looked back at Falcon, who was now with Ant-Man. The two of them were talking to the clone pilot about the capabilities of the Y-Wing bomber. It looks like they're getting along pretty well with the clones, Captain America said nonchalantly, watching Falcon make a joke that made the clones laugh as well. They are very capable, like a well-oiled machine, War Machine said as he watched the other clone troopers and pilots prepare for their upcoming mission under the leadership of General Skywalker and Plo Koon. They said their clones were born for this. Captain America muttered to himself, but his expression showed that he clearly disagreed with this. War Machine didn't have a chance to answer his question, as Anakin Skywalker called a meeting of Shadow Squadron. War Machine and Captain America looked at each other, and both decided to discuss their previous topic again, when they had the chance. The 4 Avengers stood aside, while General Skywalker and Admiral Yularen briefed Shadow Squadron on the mission, with the astronaut droid R2-D2 projecting a projection of the ship. The Senate has commissioned this strike force to hunt down the enemy's new battleships. With the majority of our fleet engaged on the front lines, we will be operating alone this time. General Skywalker has mapped out our battle plan, Yularen said bluntly. Skywalker nodded and walked over to Shadow Squadron. While our capital ships are vulnerable to attack as the enemy's ion cannons are capable of disabling our capital ship combat systems, I believe a squadron of bomber groups can outwit their weapons and be able to target the 2 primary targets, the bridge and General Grievous. What do you think? Captain America whispered to Falcon and War Machine. It may not succeed. From their wording, this ion cannon will disable their spacecraft combat system. It sounds like an electromagnetic pulse, Falcon said, squinting at the spacecraft on the projection. It seems like a good idea to target the bridge, but the enemy's weapons are still there, and they may still be able to strike back at us, said War Machine. Then wouldn't it be a wiser choice to use a cannon to shoot from a distance? Ant-Man asked puzzledly. That's true, but it sounds simple, but it's difficult to implement, Captain America said, stroking his chin and continuing to watch Anakin's battle deployment. Pilot, prepare your bomber. Anakin ordered the clones, and they quickly stood up and walked towards the fighters for a final check. At this moment, GD Master Plo and GD Pador and Ahsoka Tano came up to talk to Anakin. Skywalker, your plan is too radical and risky. Are you sure Shadow Squadron can accomplish this mission? Plo Koon whispered. Let's go ask them, Anakin said, looking at his pilot. A bold clone looked towards his general. Do you think you can do it? Anakin asked confidently. Yes, General. There is no mission that Shadow Squadron cannot accomplish, the clone responded loudly. That's right. Minimum casualties, maximum efficiency. This is the purpose of our Shadow Squadron. A clone to the left of the bold clone also spoke. At least they have confidence. Falcon shrugged as he watched the scene. It's good to have confidence, but blind confidence is not the magic weapon for victory. I have seen too many missions like this. Their combat plans are tantamount to suicide. War Machine expressed his opinion as a veteran Air Force. Chapter 33, Medical Escort Attacked. War Machine walked up to the GD Knight and greeted him. General Skywalker. Skywalker nodded and said, Colonel Rhodes, are you ready for your first mission in the Republic? Well, if anything, our first mission with the Galactic Republic was more of a viewing experience in my opinion, but I still feel like the 4 of us could have done more to get the job done, War Machine said, with the other Avengers standing beside him. Why? Anakin asked curiously. Can you have art to show the projection of that ship again? War Machine asked. The projection of Grievous's ship was shown again. From what we know, this ship fires an ion pulse, right? Not like a missile or a bomb, but a super big arc-shaped attack wave. War Machine asked Anakin. Yes, just a large circle of ion energy, enough to disable all working systems on our ship, Anakin said. So it's like an EMP, Falcon muttered. Does its range increase as it moves? War Machine asked. It does, Anakin confirmed. That's how it can attack ships like the Avenger. What about your attack formation? If your Shadow Squadron goes up like this, there is a high possibility that it will be destroyed by the enemy battleship. Captain America asked. Anakin said, looking at the 4 Avengers and said, this is also what I'm currently thinking about. Do you have any ideas? War Machine nodded and asked R2 to project the Shadow Squadron bombers, then said, okay, R2, now can you do a diagonal crossing and then arrange the fighters into a V-shaped formation? Keep going R2, this seems important. Anakin continued to urge. Soon, projections of 3 Y-wing bombers were displayed at the locations requested by War Machine. You familiar with these formations? War Machine asked Anakin directly. I've never seen a formation like this before, Anakin said, pointing at the formation. Well, this, War Machine pointed to the first one, is called the Four-Finger Formation. It was used as early as World War II on Earth. Many of our aviation formations come from this. I think you have a lot of experience in flying combat. You are from the Air Force, right? Anakin speculated. Yes, Falcon and I are both in the Air Force, specializing in flying, War Machine admitted. Yes, I saw it during the Battle of Naboo, Anakin said. War Machine smiled slightly, before facing Anakin again, who was waiting for him to elaborate further on his formation. War Machine continued. Anyway, from what we've heard, their ion cannon can instantly disable a spacecraft when it fires an electromagnetic pulse. So, instead of using the circular formation you proposed, it would be better to use one of the 2 formations I mentioned, and let the entire squadron become a battle fortress, to gain maximum mobility and firepower. Anakin stared at War Machine Rhodes, who was indeed a veteran with rich experience in air combat. He nodded, and Anakin looked up at Shadow Squadron. Shadow Squadron, gather at the meeting place. Anakin called out to them loudly. Point without any hesitation. The clone pilots put down what they were doing, quickly appeared in people's sight, and soon assembled in front of Anakin. Sir, the squadron shouted collectively. Okay, boys, in addition to the combat mission remaining unchanged, you will be joined by 4 other people. They are Colonel James Rhodes, Lieutenant Sam Wilson, Captain Steve Rogers, and Scott Langridge. Colonel Rhodes and Lieutenant Wilson can be said to be experts in air combat, and Colonel Rhodes himself has flown. Anakin said, leaving the answer to War Machine to announce. 138 combat missions, War Machine said solemnly. Some of the clones' eyes widened at the number, while others looked at them in slight surprise. Well, you have every reason to obey Colonel Rhodes' command and complete this combat mission with the other Avengers. Anakin handed over the command to War Machine, and invited Captain America to discuss other matters with Plo Koon and Ahsoka. War Machine was a little uncomfortable with the clone pilot staring at him without blinking, but he quickly cleared his throat and said, okay, excellent pilots of the Galactic Republic. First of all, I want to make it clear that my teammates and I are not here to take over your squadron, nor will we stay in Shadow Squadron forever, but to provide you with necessary assistance. So don't mind us most of the time, Falcon said with a shrug. The clone pilot named Broadside asked, Sir, what are these 2 formations? War Machine nodded and said, that's what we are going to discuss. You should have a general understanding of this kind of flight formation, right? All the clones nodded. War Machine breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing this, and then gave the clone pilots an in-depth explanation of the 2 formations' arrangements and their functions. Meanwhile, Cap and Anakin are talking, with Plo Koon and Ahsoka standing beside them. Captain, are you sure you want to go to the front lines? If you want to stay in the temple, I will understand. Anakin asked. General, I appreciate your concern, but I've never been one to sit and wait for news. My other 5 teammates are missing now, and I can't leave it to luck whether I can find them, so we must take the initiative instead of waiting passively. Anakin smiled approvingly, and Plo nodded in understanding. Captain Rogers, I think you should get along well with Skywalker here. Plo said. That feels like a backhanded compliment, Master Plo, Anakin said with a wry smile, and Ahsoka chuckled. Captain America smiled slightly and turned his attention to Admiral Yularen, who had an important message for them. Yularen said solemnly, Skywalker, enemy warships have just attacked our medical convoy near the Lindria system. The medical escort was attacked. Only Grievous would do something so despicable as attacking injured soldiers, Ahsoka said in disbelief and anger. Captain America frowned as he digested this information, feeling deeply saddened by the thought of an unarmed clone being killed so easily. Whoever this Grievous was, it was clear that he had no moral fiber. Lindria. Anakin pondered. Lindria system near Naboo. Our medical station happens to be stationed there. Yularen recalled the scenes from his previous voyages and said, there are many star clusters in that area. Even Grievous fleet cannot guarantee that it will not deviate from its course in such an area. It looks like we need a shortcut to get there, otherwise this Grievous will definitely disappear. Captain America said. Captain Rogers, you spoke my mind. It so happens that we are near this shortcut right now. Admiral Yularen, send orders to the medical escort and tell them what is about to happen. Anakin said. I'll do it right away, General. Yularen walked away quickly. Chapter 34 Sidious's attitude. This operation may be more dangerous than expected. Pro muttered to himself. He looked at Captain America and asked, Captain Rogers, you are a man who has experienced many battles. What do you think of this situation? Captain America crossed his arms, lost in thought, before saying, I'm not so sure. The scale of a galactic war is beyond my level. Plo Koon turned and looked at Captain America without saying a word, waiting for his next words. But now, the most important thing is that we must take action. One more minute we waste here discussing how to complete the mission means one more minute that Grievous will bring those damn robots to slaughter more people. Captain America said firmly. Captain Rogers, do you have any personal grudge against robots? Pro suddenly asked, surprising Captain America. Captain America muttered to himself, it makes sense. We have also encountered a veritable army of robots on Earth. Their goal is to exterminate all life on my planet. Plo fell into deep thought and became even more worried at the thought of facing such an enemy. The enemy of the Avengers, also a robot, who wanted to exterminate all life on Earth. As a Jedi Master, Plo was very proficient in perception, and in the brief time he talked to Captain America, he found that Captain America was not lying. Plo frowned behind his helmet. He wanted to ask in detail about the situation of the robots on Earth, but knew that this would have to wait until later, because the most urgent thing now was to complete this mission point now. There was another, more pressing matter at hand. Capra turned to his teammates, who were still discussing and showing the clone pilots the various flight formations they had experienced. The pilots listened with great interest. Admiral Yularen's voice interrupted them. Shadow Squadron, take your starfighters and prepare to depart immediately. All the pilots headed for their fighters, and the 4 Avengers followed the pilots to their assigned bombers and climbed into the back seats. You ready? Anakin's voice came through the channel of the 4 Avengers. We will complete this mission, Skywalker, Captain America replied. A moment later, Shadow Squadron left the Hunter-class Star Destroyer hangar. Anakin instructed through the communicator, Shadow Squadron, tighten the formation. Let's test Colonel Rhodes's 4-finger tactics. Then, they continued to practice the tactics that War Machine had mentioned during the flight. Meanwhile, in an undisclosed location across the galaxy, Count Dooku sat in a meditation chamber, legs crossed, wrists resting on his knees, as he allowed the dark side of the Force to flow through his body. He felt that the Force was in a constant state of motion, unstable and unpredictable, and he had a hard time pinning down why this was happening. But Count Dooku was very sure that he, and every Force user in the galaxy, felt the previous shock wave, and after that, the fluctuations of the Force became unusual. Dooku suddenly opened his eyes, knelt on one knee, and a holographic projection of his Sith master, Darth Sidious, appeared in front of him. Master, Dooku said, leaning forward and lowering his head, get up, my apprentice, I want to tell you something. Sidious said in his usual tone. What is it, my lord? 4 figures appeared on the holographic projection. Dooku looked up and recognized 3 of them. These are the Avengers you mentioned that showed up on Naboo, Dooku said as he looked at the 4 men. Then his eyes fell on the newest member. I don't know this man. He was recently found. He is Colonel James Rhodes, aka War Machine. He is the one who sabotaged our plans during the Rishi incident and informed the Republic of our intention to invade Kamino. Master, I think you have met these Avengers. Dooku spoke slowly. Yes, Tyrannus. I spoke briefly with their leader, the man named Steve Rogers, also known as Captain America, Sidious said with a nod. What do you think of this man, my lord? Sidious frowned. He is an unpredictable person. This time, I found that I was wrong in my perception of the Force. Captain Rogers is not as simple as I thought. Who is he, and what does he plan to do? He refuses to reveal a single word. Master, anything else? Dooku asked. They are obviously from a primitive world. don't quite understand the meaning of space, but they boast of technological means that we are completely unfamiliar with. Sidious recalled their conference with GD, clones and senators when he first met the Avengers. For example, Sidious played the footage of Ant-Man fighting Point Dooku saw that this Ant-Man could shrink and grow at will, and could easily knock down battle robots after shrinking. What really shocked him was the disc-shaped thing that Ant-Man threw at the AAT tank, which could shrink the AAT tank to the size of a toy. How is this going, Tyrannus? I also want to know what is going on. Even I'm confused as to what this man is capable of. And you have to understand that he is just one of many. The Sith Lord stressed. How many of them are there? Dooku asked nervously. According to them, there are 9 people now. I tend to believe them. Only these 4 people have appeared in this team so far. There are another 5 people scattered across the galaxy, and I don't know where exactly. Everyone has his or her own special talents and abilities, far beyond our understanding. Sidious said. What would I do if I encountered one of these? Capture them and bring them to our side as best you can. I have a feeling whoever controls them will lead the tide of the galaxy. Dooku raised his eyebrows and asked tentatively, Master, please forgive my bluntness, but is it a bit of an exaggeration to say that we are leading the trend of the galaxy? As soon as Dooku finished speaking, he felt a strong sense of suffocation lingering around him, which made him realize how serious his master was about this matter. I am not telling you this to ask for your opinion, my apprentice. I'm telling you, because this is what you must do, Sidious said in a commanding tone. Dooku coughed, lowered his head and said, I understand, my master. I will do as you ask. Okay. Sidious nodded, and just as he was about to end the call, Dooku hurriedly said, is there anything else you can tell me about these Avengers? In a way, Dooku waited in silence for Sidious to elaborate further. I told you I had spoken to their leader, Captain Rogers, didn't I? Dooku nodded. He is a man of conviction, an experienced and battle-hardened soldier, but don't let those titles deceive you. He may not have the power of the Force, but his perception is just as strong, and he is someone not to be underestimated. Dooku suddenly remembered an important little detail. My apprentice, Ventress, talked about the details of the fight with these Avengers after the Battle of Naboo. She told me that the lightsaber could not cut through Captain Rogers' shield. Sidious also remembered the brief holographic communication with Dooku and Ventress, and after thinking for a moment, he said, I want to talk to her in detail about this matter. Dooku nodded, knowing that any information about the Avengers would now interest his master. I will notify her and have her give you a full report. Very good, now it's up to you. With the last order given, Sidious ended the call, leave Dooku alone to think. He frowned, but in fact he did not agree with the measures Sidious took against these sudden arrivals. Suddenly, an idea came into his mind. These Avengers suddenly appeared, and 3 of them appeared on the day when the CIs invaded Naboo, which happened to be a day when the Force was fluctuating. Since then, the Force has become strange and erratic. Could it be that these Avengers are the cause of this dramatic change in the Force? Sidious may know more than the information revealed to him, but given Sidious's cunningness, he obviously won't tell everything. If possible, I need to explore this issue further. In my new mission, there may be an opportunity to learn more about these Avengers and their true capabilities. Count Dooku thought, stroking his beard. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Reckless Anakin Skywalker. General Grievous of the Confederacy of Independent Systems Droid Army stands on the bridge of the CIS's new warship, the HMS Malevolence. Grievous had recently taken out several Republic ships with the US Malevolence, and he was already on his way to his next target. Dooku decided to go find Grievous and see how he was doing. Seeing Grievous smash the head off another battle droid, Dooku expressed his displeasure. You know, these droids are not cheap. Neither the Jedi nor the Republic treat their clones this way. Hearing Count Dooku's voice, Grievous turned and reported to his superior via holocom. Lord Dooku. Grievous bowed. We are already on our way to the Republic medical station in the Lendria system. Any instructions? No. Continue with your mission, General Grievous. Dooku waved his hand. However, there may be an unexpected variable in the upcoming battle. For example, in addition to sending a small strike force led by Skywalker to attack your ship, the Republic also sent some people you hate. Dooku then spoke of the new members of the Republic's ranks, the Avengers. Even Dooku didn't know much about them, let alone Grievous, who scoffed. What does it matter? I will kill them, just like I did with many other Republic troops I encountered. I suggest you be cautious. Lord Sidious also talked about these Avengers. From what the Lord said, these people are not that simple. Dooku warned. Did Lord Sidious tell you this? Grievous asked, his tone becoming more respectful. Dooku nodded. It's the most difficult to deal with the man with the shield, because his shield can block the attack of the lightsaber. The lightsaber can only leave marks on it, but can't penetrate the shield at all. This unexpected thing surprised Grievous. After thinking for a moment, he chuckled. Oh, I love challenging the impossible the most. Dooku just stared at General Grievous in silence, before cutting off the communication. At this time, Shadow Squadron had just left hyperspace, and was now approaching a huge cloud-like nebula. Are we going through it? Ant-Man asked nervously, staring at the huge nebula in front of him. We'll get through, Ant-Man. Once we get to the other side, we'll be on home turf, Anakin promised. That nebula really does look like a hurricane, Falcon commented, not liking the thing very much. There is a high probability of unpredictable dangers when sailing in the nebula. I suggest you be cautious, Plo Koon said solemnly. Don't worry, GD Master, we can get through. The clone of Shadow Squadron said through the communicator. Anakin also looked confident. I hope you know what you are doing, General Anakin, Captain America reminded. Come on, Captain Rogers. Where's your adventurous spirit? Anakin asked jokingly. On Earth, Captain America replied. Everyone keep in tight formation and follow me. We'll get through this place fine, Anakin ordered. As the squadron traveled deeper and deeper into the nebula, many of the clone pilots began to tire point to relieve their fatigue. The clones chatted with Falcon and War Machine about their exploits on Earth over the communicator. To pass the time point meanwhile, Ahsoka Tano was manipulating her console, tapping it a few times, before saying in frustration, Ugh, I hate this place. Anakin laughed. You have to get used to find your way in the dark. Plo Koon also echoed. Anakin is right, Ahsoka, you must always keep your head clear to see the path you want to take. Meanwhile, the rest of Shadow Squadron was absorbed in watching War Machine tell the story of his time on Earth. So, Anakin, how much do you know about this shortcut? How did you know about it? Captain America asked. It's an old smuggling route that many pilots used to talk about on Tatooine. They called it the Bamora Line. Plo Koon was stunned when he heard Anakin say this, and confirmed again, Bamora Line. Suddenly, something flashed on Ahsoka's radar. Skywalker, listen to me, Plo said loudly and urgently. We need to turn around now. No, unless we don't want to capture Grievous. Anakin stubbornly rejected Plo's suggestion. Skywalker, Bamora is the nesting site of giant pterodactyls, Plo said loudly. Ahsoka, now breathing heavily, turned around to see a giant creature walking towards them. It let out a roar. Avoid. Now, Anakin ordered. Fortunately, due to their flight formation design, Shadow Squadron avoided the giant Pteranodon until they encountered more Pteranodons circling what appeared to be the center point of the nebula. Those creatures are huge, Ahsoka exclaimed. Oh my god, I thought giantants were scary enough. Ant-Man said palely. Don't shoot or they'll panic, Plo warned. I don't know if they'll panic, but I know I'm about to panic, Ahsoka said in disbelief. Ugh, this is horrible. Ant-Man shouted in horror. Even Captain America himself couldn't deny that. Flying so close, these giant creatures could easily swat them aside or eat them. There are too many of them, said the bald clone, flying under a Pteranodon. Seeing the problem they were currently facing, Anakin quickly came up with an idea and instructed in the communicator, all fighters, line up behind me. Roger that, sir, the clones responded. A row of Y-wing bombers and Plo Koon fighters followed closely behind, and Anakin expertly shuttled around the nebula with his squadron following closely behind. Guys, I think it's going to get worse, Ant-Man said in a slightly higher pitched tone. We need to leave the nebula immediately. Those pterodactyls won't leave here. Pro said hurriedly. All fighters advanced at full speed. After a tense flight, Anakin led the squadron out of the nebula, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Captain America frowned and said, Anakin, I know we have only known each other for a short time. But, can we minimize the danger, Anakin? Scoffed at Captain America's angry words. I'll do my best. Now, I know how Ant really feels. Ant-Man rubbed his chest and said haggardly, point in the hyperspace channel. General Kenobi was on a video link with Admiral Yularen. The medical station reports that 50% of the population has been evacuated. This did not satisfy Obi-Wan at all. This is not enough. At this rate, they won't be able to evacuate all of them before Grievous arrives. Yularen nodded his assent, then said, Shadow Squadron still has a chance to capture Grievous. Anakin led the Shadow Squadron forward in space until they saw we're at the medical station. Ahsoka called out, it looks like we got here before Grievous, Plo said with relief. So, how far do you think he is from here? Falcon asked loudly. Sir. A clone spoke up. Our radar shows something is following us. Is that a Tyrannodon following us? Ahsoka asked. No, it came out of hyperspace, and I'm pretty sure it's not one of ours, the clone said again. Okay, boys, forget about that for now. Now get into battle formation, Anakin ordered. Chapter 36. The battle begins. Attacking the devil. Grievous had his eyes fixed on the medical bay when one of his droid minions reported that a force of Republic starfighters was coming in from the rear. Skywalker, Grievous roared. He also noticed that the Republic medical team was evacuating the medical station. Target those medical frigates. We won't let any wounded Republic clones escape, Grievous ordered. Sir, what about the Republic starfighter squadron? Asked a pilot droid. Idiot. Send our fighters to fight back. Now charge the iron cannons. Grievous said, point Shadow Squadron. Captain America narrowed his eyes as he looked at the energy pouring in from the side of the demon. What are they doing? They are preparing the iron cannon. Plo Koon said seriously. They are targeting the medical guards. We have to act now, or our wounded will be killed. Ahsoka shouted. We have our own problems to solve, Commander, said the bald robot, staring at the hyena and vulture robots in front of him. Shadow Squadron, War Machine called. Remember the new tactics I showed you? Everyone responded on the communicator. Well, now's the time to give it a try. War Machine said. Point Group 4. The four-finger fighters readied themselves, and Anakin led the charge, Plo Koon flying alongside him. As the robot warriors draw closer, War Machine waits for the right moment, until it's now. The bomber began to move and change positions quickly, suddenly flying over the droid fighter and firing a barrage of blaster shots to shoot it down, forming a tsunami-like attack. Well done, Shadow Squadron, Anakin praised, seeing the power of this tactic. Don't relax yet, there are more robots coming, said Falcon. Point meanwhile, the demon successfully destroyed the fleeing hospital fleet, his ship firing at the disabled vessels, while turning to aim its iron cannons at the Skywalker fighter squadron. Prepare. Iron cannon fire, Grievous ordered. But, sir, our own warriors are among them. Do as I say, Grievous ordered. Point in space, a dogfight ensues, with Republic squadrons flying around. Separatist fighter Sam shot down another hyena fighter and yelled, guys, these guys are a terrible fighter. They're pointing their cannons at us, Ahsoka yelled, desperately firing at any enemy fighters in her sight. Anakin swerved around a fighter and destroyed it with a few shots. Grievous watched the melee with narrowed eyes in anticipation as the iron cannon opened fire again. Here they come, Captain America shouted. Evasion. Anakin yelled, speeding up his ship, with 5 Y-wing fighters following behind him. The others formed groups of 4 or 5 and quickly moved away from the iron cannon's attack range. Shadow Squadron. Reply received. Anakin instructed. Point except for number 4, 6, 7, and 10. All other pilots responded on the communicator. We lost 4 fighters, Ahsoka said dejectedly. They're Still alive though, War Machine said, turning on the scanner on his helmet, so they won't last long. Anakin nodded, gripping the joystick tightly as he spoke. Now we fight back, win this war, and bring them home. Everyone tighten your formation, and let's charge in. Anakin said, leading the Shadow Squadron straight to the demon. Aboard the enemy ship, Grievous chuckled. Grievous said cheerfully, fools. Skywalker failed to realize his doom after losing so many fighters. Then he turned to one of the droids and asked, how long will it take for our ion cannons to recharge? Just a few minutes, General, a robot pilot replied. The Shadow Squadron was now shuttling back and forth around the demon, trying their best not to be shot down by the enemy's defensive turrets. We need to stay the course. That's easy for you to say. The enemy's high energy artillery attack is very fierce. Tiger, you're getting hit, Ahsoka yelled to a pilot. My stabilizer was shot. A fighter plane crashed. Plow shouted loudly, looking at the rapidly falling fighter plane in grief. Master, we need to change our plans, Ahsoka argued. Anakin did not relax, flying his fighter forward at the fastest speed. Ahsoka, hold on, we can do it. A robot on the bridge of the demon noticed that even under such heavy firepower, Shadow Squadron did not give up, and then he reported to Grievous, Sir, the enemy fighters are approaching. Let them come. Prepare the ion cannon. We will destroy the medical station first, and then turn around and kill Skywalker. Grievous said arrogantly. One of the robots turned to the other and whispered, I have a bad feeling about this. Watch out for those towers, guys. Falcon warned, shooting at some vulture droids. We were hit. Goodbye. The hit clone fighter crashed into the demon's hull before crashing. Shadow number 9 is sacrificed. Ahsoka gritted her teeth and argued with Anakin. Master, I believe you can succeed, but the others were shot down. Anakin remained silent, which made Ahsoka a little jumpy. Aboard the demon, a robot reported the status of the ion cannon. Our main ship is being targeted, Admiral. Accelerate the ion cannon, Grievous ordered. After blowing up more droid warriors, Plo Koon came up with a solution to the ion cannon attack. If we can inflict enough damage to the ion cannon, it will surely be overloaded when Grievous tries to fire, and there's a chance it will self-destruct. Hearing this, Anakin racked his brains to think of a way to accomplish this goal and ordered, Shadow Squadron, turn right and go behind the ion cannon and attack with all your strength. Ion cannon is 75% charged, the Separatist droid reported. At this time, the Shadow Squadron had already arrived behind the ion cannon. Aim for those support beams and attack with all your might, said War Machine. Shadow Squadron released all the torpedoes on the Y-wing caused bombers, and the massive torpedo explosions caused the demon to begin to shake. On the bridge of the demon, Grievous saw that the ion cannon had finally reached full capacity, and ignoring the ship being attacked, he shouted the order, fire. However, he was not expecting the ion cannon to suddenly self-destruct, and the violent explosion caused both sides of the Separatist ship to explode, which caused the entire ship to begin to shake violently, and Grievous collapsed to the ground. Well done, Shadow Squadron. Plo Koon praised. Grievous staggered back to his feet and yelled, report damage. Sir, 2 ion cannons are damaged. Hyperdrive damaged. Another robot reported. What? Grievous was horrified and shouted, impossible. General Republic warships are approaching. Another robot reported even worse news to Grievous. Anakin, please reply. Skywalker smiled when he heard Obi-Wan's voice, and he quickly responded with, Roger that, Obi-Wan. Congratulations. It looks like your mission was a success. Only part of it is done, because Grievous is still alive. Anakin said with a little disappointment, and then his voice became a little low. This battle was very difficult for my men. Next we have to go to the medical station. General Kenobi nodded and said, don't worry, leave the rest to us. I'll be waiting for your good news, Obi-Wan. After ending the call, Kenobi said seriously to his clone troopers, okay, now let's continue to complete the remaining mission with all our strength. Soon, Republic Star Destroyers led by Obi-Wan opened fire on the demon as it was in full retreat point at this time. The demon, which had lost most of its attack power, was busy retreating, hoping to return to the Separatist territory. Chapter 37, Grievous's Hasty Retreat. At the Republic medical station, the fighters of Shadow Squadron were parked in the landing bay. Each of them came out of their respective fighters to refuel the fighters. When Anakin got off the fighter, he heard Master Plo Koon say to him, "Well done, Skywalker, your leadership is impressive. You did a great job too." Anakin responded, "I think it was my suggestion to change the plan that worked." Ahsoka protested, "Yes, little brat. From a certain perspective, you really deserve credit." Anakin said easily, "Hey, don't forget War Machine's flight tactical arrangement. Without the four-finger tactic, our losses might be even greater." Ant-Man added unwillingly. The other Avengers and all the Jedi Knights present nodded. They knew very well that War Machine's four-finger tactical arrangement was the key factor in the victory in the early stages of this war. Anakin turned to look at War Machine and gave him a smile. "If there is a chance later, I will ask you more about other tactics you have mastered. I believe that those tactics are crucial to future battles. I will tell you everything I know, General." War Machine responded with a smile. When the others finished refueling the fighters and gathered together to talk about the battle just now, Captain America said to Anakin, "Although we did a good job in this mission, we must not take it lightly." Anakin nodded, sighed and said, "No, because we also lost a lot of excellent fighters. This is something that must be experienced as a team leader, and it will repeat itself over and over again. It is a very painful process." "Your experience?" Anakin asked. Captain America just nodded firmly, because he and the others in the Avengers knew this fact very well. "I understand. Excuse me, I must prepare for the upcoming battle," Anakin said and turned to leave. Watching Skywalker leave, Falcon said to Ahsoka, "Your teacher is a very interesting person, Ahsoka." The young Jedi apprentice smiled and shook his head. "In my mind, he is unique, Colonel." "I know, that's what I just meant, kid," Falcon said with a smile. "Don't call me kid. Then call you brat, Wilson." Meanwhile, Captain America saw more medical frigates arriving at the medical station, and to his relief, several Y-wing bombers that had been trapped by the ion cannon were successfully rescued. A smile appeared on Captain America's face. He was happy to see that the clone pilots were still alive, and considering the situation at the time, they had done well enough. Captain America once again set his sights on the Republic fleet, which was chasing the Separatist warship named Demon. From Captain America's point of view, the Separatists of this independent alliance were targeting an alliance country that was not known for war, which could be seen from their attack on a defenseless medical station. Whatever the case, Captain America knew that he had dragged himself and the rest of the Avengers into another war that would not appear in their lives, and now it seemed that this was only the first of many battles. At this time, Grievous, who had fled in panic, was pacing on the bridge of the damaged Demon, and was extremely angry that he was so close to their target, but was stopped at the last second by the Shadow Squadron led by Skywalker. Grievous was furious and beat his droids. Some unfortunate B-1 droids were beaten to death by his fists. Grievous, who had calmed down, knew clearly that all he could do now was to quickly retreat from the attack range of the Republic fleet. "What's the status of the hyperdrive?" Grievous roared at the droid. "General, it is currently operating at 60% capacity," one of the pilot droids said, "but the Republic fleet keeps attacking us, and it is difficult to repair." Grievous roared, "Where are our reinforcement? They are under attack from another Republic fleet," another pilot droid said. Grievous kicked the unfortunate droid away in anger and said coldly, "We must leave here, no matter what, and repair the hyperdrive immediately." The Demon was now slowly advancing in front of the Republic fleet led by Jedi Masters Plo Koon and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Republic fleet opened fire and continued to bombard the Demon, with no intention of stopping. Behind the two Jedi Knights stood Admiral Yularen, and three senior generals were observing the damage to the Demon. Obi-Wan glanced at the clone commander and said, "Yularen, what is the damage level of the enemy ship?" Yularen said, "The light speed propulsion of the Demon is damaged, but the ship is too large, and all our firepower attacks cannot destroy it in a short time." Plo Koon nodded. "We must call for reinforcement, otherwise, Grievous will slip away." Kenobi and Plo Koon had just finished speaking when they heard a familiar voice behind them. They turned around and looked back, only to see Anakin and Ahsoka entering the bridge accompanied by Captain America and Ant-Man. "Anakin, Captain Rogers, Mr. Lang, you are really timely. Obi-Wan greeted happily. Hey, hello. Ant-Man just said briefly, and then his eyes were quickly attracted by the one-sided battle in front of him, and he said to himself, I wonder how long this will last. I hope it won't be too long. Ahsoka commented. Skywalker, have you contacted Luminara? Plo Koon asked. She is currently blocking the nearby Separatist reinforcement fleet. Unless she defeats the Separatist reinforcement fleet, she will not be able to provide us with support. Hearing this, the two Jedi Masters nodded slightly bitterly. The Republic fleet continued to attack the demon, and Grievous on the bridge of the enemy ship shouted angrily on the shaking demon, report the situation. The hyperspace engine is still inactive, and the forward engine is losing power. Our main weapons have been destroyed, and we cannot launch an effective counterattack. A robot pilot informed. Grievous gritted his teeth, and looked at the robot attendant beside him. He really wanted to grind this guy to ashes. Glancing at several nearby robots, he roared, what are you still doing here? All of you go to repair the engine. Several robots ran away quickly. Suddenly, his communicator rang, and he knew who was on the other end of the phone without thinking. General Grievous. The familiar voice of Count Dooku came. Lord Dooku. Grievous bowed and said, what is the current situation of the demon? Dooku asked calmly. It has not been damaged too much. Count Dooku just stared at him without saying anything. Grievous knew that his lie could not solve the problem he was facing, let alone hide it from Count Dooku on the other end of the communicator. General, according to the current situation, I have set a trap. If you do as I say, you will get out of the current predicament and regain the upper hand. That is not necessary, Count Dooku. I assure you that the Jedi Knights in the Galactic Republic will not be able to capture me and the demon. Grievous said confidently. Grievous, I remind you again, do not let the demon be destroyed, otherwise the consequences are not something you can afford. You must know that this failure is entirely due to your arrogance. Dooku ignored Grievous' current mood and continued, the one coming in your direction is a very important Galactic Republic senator. If she is your hostage, the Jedi Knights will definitely give up the attack. General Grievous obeyed reluctantly and said, as you wish, Lord Dooku. At this time, the Republic fleet continued to chase behind the demon. Admiral, report the situation. Master Skywalker, from the current point of view, they are not trying to jump to hyperspace. Hearing this, Ant-Man and Anakin thought about what Grievous was trying to do. So this means they can't escape. We will eventually catch up with it, right? Ant-Man asked. Skywalker nodded and confirmed. Their hyperspace engine must be damaged. This is our chance. All fleets, full speed ahead. Fire at the demon with all your strength. Obi-Wan said firmly. At the same time, without the Republic army knowing, a lone spaceship was traveling through hyperspace and heading straight for the battlefield. On the spaceship was none other than C-3PO, the protocol droid created by Senator Padme Amidala and her husband Anakin Skywalker himself. Chapter 38, Trap, Hostage. Madam, are you sure that the information provided by Chancellor Palpatine is reliable? C-3PO asked very worriedly. Padme glanced sideways, nodded and said, yes, the top leader of the banking group secretly told him. Padme smiled. If they are willing to leave the Separatist alliance, this will greatly shorten the course of this war, and the people will not be in dire straits, like they are now. Even if there is only a 1% chance, I will do it. The pilot reported to Padme, we are very close to the banking group. Padme imagined that the interstellar banking group must be vast and prosperous, and there will be a spaceship carrying bank executives here to greet them. In fact, oh my god. 3PO shouted in horror. However, in fact, she found that there was nothing at the coordinates given by Palpatine, and her spaceship almost hit the wreckage of a huge burning ship. This is not right. It's a robot warship. Padme stammered in shock. On the demon, Padme's arrival had been discovered by the robots, and reported to Grievous. Sir, we are scanning a small spaceship at the head of the ship. Good. Our hostages are here. Grievous said with a sinister satisfaction. Padme tilted rapidly, barely avoiding the large ship in front, and immediately sent out a distress signal. Call. Padme said frantically, I'm Senator Amidala. I have now broken into the defense line of the enemy robot warship. Are there any Republic troops nearby? On the Republic side, Ahsoka, who had been monitoring the situation on the demon, received this unknown distress message. Master, I received a distress signal near the enemy ship, which was sent by the spaceship that just came out of hyperspace. Enemy reinforcement? Anakin asked. Ahsoka shook her head. No, the spaceship looks like it's from Naboo. Anakin suddenly thought of the worst case scenario and quickly gave the order. Stop the fire attack. Captain America murmured to himself. Naboo? Isn't that the senator's hometown? What's her name? Amidala. Isn't she from Naboo? Why are they suddenly running into the battlefield? Obi-Wan asked loudly. We received their distress call. Ahsoka said. Call. I'm Senator Amidala, requesting assistance from the nearby Republic troops. The distress signal came again, and Anakin felt his blood boiling. He seemed to remember something, walked to the corner, and quietly communicated with Padme by typing. Not long after, she responded. Padme, what are you doing here? Anakin asked worriedly. I was sent here to perform a mission. The speaker told me that the banking group wants to negotiate with the Republic. I want to try to persuade them to leave the CIs, so that the process of ending the war can be accelerated. Padme replied. Leave there as soon as possible. Anakin almost shouted. Padme also realized that something was wrong, and just as she was about to leave, the spaceship suddenly shook violently. She asked the C-3PO etiquette droid nervously, have we been hit? I think. I'm afraid it's worse than this. Padme, what happened? Anakin asked worriedly, and the others behind him were also very worried now. I was pulled into the robot battleship by the tractor beam. It seems that they knew I was coming here in advance, and I must not become a bargaining chip for the Separatists to bargain with you. Anakin, ignore me, keep attacking, you must destroy this battleship. Padme said in a firm tone. Anakin couldn't bear to watch his wife die here, and said anxiously, Admiral Yularen, order our spaceship to stop shooting. The Admiral just nodded bitterly. Just when the demon was about to be destroyed, this kind of thing happened. What should we do now? Captain America asked Anakin. Anakin clenched his fists silently in frustration, unable to find an answer for a moment. He couldn't ignore Padme and attack the demon with all his strength, but he couldn't just watch the demon and Grievous go unpunished, and those clone warriors who lost their lives in this war would not agree. Padme knew at this point that this was a trap set for her and Anakin. She slammed her fist on the console angrily. On the bridge of the demon, Grievous heard some comforting news. The Republic Star Destroyer had stopped the attack. Grievous swept away the previous haze. With Padme as a hostage, the Jedi would definitely stop the fire attack, and they would have enough time to repair the demon's hyperspace engine. He gave an order. Let the maintenance team continue to repair the hyperspace engine. It must be repaired. Grievous then boarded the orbital jet and headed for the hangar of the demon. He was going to see the hostage who had turned the tide of the war, and on the way he imagined what reward he would get after winning this battle. After arriving at the hangar, Grievous took a few robot followers to see Padme. He was a little excited when he imagined how panicked and scared Padme was at this moment. But all the scenes he imagined did not happen, because she was not there. Where is she? I will find her for me, even if I have to dig 3 feet underground. Grievous roared angrily. At this time, an attendant reported another bad news. The hyperspace engine is going to self-destruct. Grievous was so angry at the successive bad news that he almost self-destructed on the spot. Padme was hiding in a corner of the hangar of the demon at this time. Seeing the angry Grievous and the robots running around frantically, she almost laughed out loud. She remembered the news that the robot had just said that the hyperspace engine was going to self-destruct, and she withdrew her thoughts, thinking about how to escape from here. At the same time, Anakin took a breath with a little annoyance and turned to leave the bridge. Where are you going? Kenobi asked. Someone has to rescue her, Anakin said without looking back. Well, I'll go too, Captain America said on the side. Captain Rogers, you don't need to do this. You and your team have done enough for us today, Obi-Wan said sincerely. Kenobi, thank you for your concern, but Senator Amidala once helped me. I can't just sit back and watch, and besides, apart from her identity as a senator, she is just a civilian. We need to rescue her as soon as possible, Captain America said firmly. Anakin heard Captain America's words, grinned, and said gratefully, "Thank you for your support, Captain America." In the hangar bay of the Republic battleship, Falcon and War Machine stood next to some clone pilots who were learning the basic principles of flying a starship from the clones. "This controls the speed of the ship, and this fires weapons," explained the clone from Shadow Squadron. Falcon and War Machine nodded frequently, and at the same time, used the recorders on their armor to record the operating procedures, preparing to familiarize themselves with them when they had time. On several occasions, the clone pilots asked them to repeat the steps they had just said, and the clones who were explaining were also very happy to see that the two had remembered all the details. They now basically know how to operate the spacecraft correctly, thinking that one day they will be able to fly the spacecraft back to Earth. Although they are already familiar with the operating procedures, as pilots, they all know that how to operate is one thing, and actually doing it is another. Despite this, in the eyes of the clone pilots, they learn very quickly and have made good progress. Before the clone pilots had time to continue explaining, everyone noticed that Anakin and Captain America had arrived. "Hey, Falcon, War Machine, can I ask you for a favor?" Anakin asked. The two looked at each other and asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Captain America said, "We are going to participate in a rescue operation. Senator Amidala is now on the demon. She is in danger, and we need to rescue her." "Amidala? The woman we helped on Naboo?" Falcon asked. Captain America nodded. "How did she get on the enemy ship?" War Machine asked with a little confusion. "This is most likely a trap," Anakin said as he led the group to follow him to the Dusk spacecraft. This G9 Outrigger freighter was a dilapidated spice freighter requisitioned by Anakin Skywalker and his apprentice Ahsoka Tano when they evacuated from Teth. Anakin often used this inconspicuous spacecraft to perform some unofficial missions before, because it was obviously inappropriate to drive a spacecraft with the Republic logo to perform some missions, but it came in handy at this time. The reason is not known yet, but it doesn't matter anymore, Anakin said as he walked. "I believe you have developed a brilliant plan to rescue the Senator," Kenobi said. "Yes," Anakin said confidently as they boarded the Dusk. "But do we have a B plan?" "Anakin, we have to make sure this rescue operation is foolproof," Kenobi added. Anakin shook his head and said confidently, "But I do have a plan to board the demon." "Really?" Falcon asked curiously. "The enemy's sensors are obviously damaged, so we will sneak behind the demon and dock at the emergency airlock," Anakin said simply. "What? This is what you call a perfect plan? Just fly over openly and hope that the enemy can't find us?" War Machine asked in disbelief. Yes, that's basically it, but trust me, it will definitely work," Anakin assured. "Oh, this plan is great," Falcon said exaggeratedly. "Indeed, it's not the worst plan I've ever heard of," Ant-Man also echoed. Ignoring the quarrels and banter between Falcon and Ant-Man, Anakin quickly sat in the driver's seat and started to turn on the ship's engines. "Let's go." Chapter 39 Captain America's Plan. Padme continued to grope around the demon, followed by a very paranoid 3PO. She soon stopped in front of a communication panel and tried to get through its security defenses. "Excuse me, my lady, I suggest we get out of here quickly. I hear battle droids coming this direction." C-3PO interrupted. "I know, 3PO, but we need to contact the Republic fleet now." Padme continued to operate the communication panel and then said in frustration, "If I can only get this communication panel to work." 3PO looked around the corner again. "My lady, I'm afraid I'm right. We need to get out of here immediately." General Grievous led a team of droids down the corridor towards Padme. Hearing the footsteps, Padme quickly grabbed a large metal plate that had fallen nearby and hid herself and 3PO behind it. Grievous walked to the communication panel. Padme, who was hiding behind the metal plate, could see many metal feet of droids through the gaps. She was so scared that she dared not breathe, fearing that she would be discovered. At this time, a droid called Grievous through the communicator. "General, what happened? The damage to the hyperdrive is not as severe as we initially thought. We should be able to repair it soon." This news made Grievous very happy. "I'm going to inform Count Dooku." He turned to the robots behind him and gave an order. "You stay here and continue searching. You must find the hostage and bring her to me. Grievous left, and the robot team also left the vicinity of the metal plate. Padme breathed a sigh of relief and considered her next move. Outside the demon, Anakin maintained a steady course and quietly moved towards the enemy ship to ensure that nothing would happen to alert the robots to their presence. If they find us, we will all die without a burial place, Obi-Wan said. They are all busy repairing this ship at this time. No one will notice us, Anakin said with a sneer. Obi-Wan was upset by Anakin's indifference and said seriously, Anakin, making plans has never been your strong point. Master, I learned all my skills from you, Anakin retorted with a smile. That would be great. Obi-Wan sighed and said to his apprentice who had become a Jedi Knight like himself. We are approaching the hangar, Falcon said. Prepare to dock the ship now, Anakin said, looking for the right position to enter the demon. The vibrations from the docking of the Dusk and the demon almost made the two nearby robots fall. Did you hear it? What? The sound. It sounds like a ship docking on the emergency airlock of the demon. Your ears must be wrong. No one would be crazy enough to do this. Falcon and War Machine flew ahead of the others and landed in front of the door leading to the airlock. Ant-Man, Captain America, Anakin, Obi-Wan and R2-D2 met them through the docking platform. Anakin, you are crazy, Obi-Wan said firmly, and then whispered, I hope we won't be discovered. As soon as Obi-Wan finished this sentence, the door opened, and two robots appeared in front of him. Falcon was quick-witted and shot several bullets into the robots' heads, killing them instantly. The group of people were so nervous just now that they couldn't be more nervous. If it weren't for Falcon, if the two robots had issued a call, all of them would have been finished. Do you have to hit them on the head? Ant-Man complained. Why are you complaining about this? Falcon was a little confused. I also want to see if I can hack into their server and see how they execute commands. If possible, I can even destroy their entire operating system. Ant-Man kicked the robot's head and said, You can do this? Falcon asked in surprise. Before coming to the Milky Way, I have been researching this for the past few months. I could have tried it on these two guys, but Ant-Man shrugged and said. Anakin looked at Obi-Wan curiously, and Obi-Wan followed closely behind. Well, let's talk about this idea later. It may really be useful, Anakin said. Captain America held a shield in his hand and suggested it would be better if we split into two teams so that the search area can be larger. Anakin agreed. This plan sounds good. Captain America, Falcon, can you team up with me? Of course you can. Ant-Man, War Machine, then we'll team up in 3. Kenobi pointed in the opposite direction of Anakin, Captain America and Falcon. As the two groups walked through the corridor of the demon, they both received a call from Ahsoka from the Republic fleet. Master, we have contacted the Senator and will transfer you in now, Ahsoka said through their communication. Padme? Anakin. Padme's relieved voice came through the communication. Are you okay? Where are you now? Anakin asked a little worriedly. On the bottom of this ship. I'm fine, but I don't know how long I can hold on. There are robots everywhere. They should be looking for me. Padme replied. I organized a rescue team and they are already on the demon. They will be able to rescue you soon. Anakin said. What? What are you doing here? Padme exclaimed. Anakin didn't waste time answering Padme's question, but called Ahsoka. Ahsoka, how can we find the Senator? According to our scans, there seems to be a hidden area in the center of the demon, which should be between the two of you, Ahsoka said on the other end of the communication. Did you hear that, Padme? We'll meet there, Anakin said excitedly. Wait a minute. Captain America interrupted. We are still on an enemy ship, which means there are a lot of robots patrolling around, and they should be working hard to repair the hyperspace engine and try to get the ship running normally again. So, Ant-Man asked in confusion. We need to make noise here, first of all, to attract the patrolling robots and distract their attention from the Senator, and secondly, to attract those who are repairing the ship and slow down their repair progress. Captain America analyzed. Captain, this matter is perfect for me, War Machine said confidently. I can go in to scout the situation first and try to find the Senator at the same time. Ant-Man added. Obi-Wan looked at his apprentice Anakin, and the meaning couldn't be more obvious. Look at the plan made by others, and then look at the plan you made yourself. Faced with the facts, Anakin could only smile bitterly. Chapter 40 Rescue of Senator Padme Amidala. On the Demon, a robot reported, "General, we just detected an unauthorized communication within the ship." "What was the call?" The robot said tremblingly. "Well, I don't know. We didn't catch it in time." Grievous was expected to be angry and shouted, "Monitor all internal communications. We must find that senator." Suddenly the ship shook violently, and alarms sounded everywhere. "What's going on?" Grievous roared. "General, it's Hangar 2, it was bombed by an unknown bomb." The robot replied. "What?" Grievous roared. "How is this possible? The senator is still on the ship. The Republic dare not launch an attack. Start the security camera immediately. Find out the reason." A monitoring screen quickly switched to Hangar 2, and the monitoring showed that the area had been clearly attacked and severely damaged. A silver blue UFO flew into the air and then hovered in midair with its arms spread out. It was a humanoid robot. Before launching several rockets into the hangar bay, it blew up everything in the monitoring range and destroyed the monitor in the process. Fortunately, or unfortunately, another monitor in the hangar survived tenaciously, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's actions could be seen. He held a blue lightsaber, dodging the blaster shells fired by the robots, and constantly killing one robot after another. At the same time, an invisible mysterious force caused the robots here to fall apart instantly. Grievous was furious, and silently walked out of the monitoring room, and issued a final ultimatum to all robots: find the senator, and bring her to him. At the same time, Captain America, Falcon and Anakin came to a jet track of the demon and carefully scouted the surrounding environment. "Where do you think she might be?" Captain America asked Anakin. "I think the main problem now is to figure out where we are," Falcon said. Then he spread his metal wings and flew into the air to scout. Anakin couldn't help but envy. "I really wish I had something like this." Suddenly, the familiar sound of blasting and shooting came from the lower floor. "Found her," Falcon said, flying to Padme. Anakin, holding a lightsaber, ran to the senator's position with Captain America. Falcon arrived first and fired at the droids. "We are here, Senator." "Lieutenant Wilson," Padme said with relief, "you've saved me twice. There are a lot of droids ahead. We need to get out of here first," Falcon said loudly. Falcon grabbed Padme and 3PO, adjusted the thrusters to the maximum, flew at the fastest speed, and soon reunited with Captain America and Anakin. Padme couldn't help but run to her husband and hugged him tightly. Captain America looked at the two's behavior and felt that there must be something hidden, but he was still happy to say, "It's good to see that you are still alive, Senator. I'm very grateful to you and your team, Captain Rogers." Padme left Anakin's arms and said affectionately, "You saved me twice in such a short time. If this continues, you will catch up with Anakin's record of saving me." Anakin just smiled and contacted Obi-Wan. "Obi-Wan, we have found Padme. She is safe now. What is the situation over there?" Obi-Wan, who had just killed a super battle droid, said, "Glad to hear the good news you brought, Anakin. War Machine and I have solved the trouble here in the hangar, but Ant-Man is missing." "I'm fine, Captain. I'm near Kenobi and War Machine, but they can't see me." Ant-Man interrupted. "Really? But we can't see you," Obi-Wan said, looking around. "Wait a moment." An almost invisible thing came from the fire, and then grew larger. It was Ant-Man, who was patting the ashes on his body. "Okay, what should we do now?" War Machine asked. "Anakin, Captain America and Falcon have found Senator Amidala. We are ready to evacuate," Obi-Wan said. Padme's voice came through Kenobi's communicator. "Wait a minute, Master Obi-Wan. I overheard the droid say that the demon's hyperdrive is not as badly damaged as they initially estimated, and they will be able to repair it in a short time. Didn't you say that the hyperdrive is nearby?" War Machine asked Kenobi. Kenobi nodded. He understood what War Machine meant, and then said to the communicator, "Anakin, you and the others go to the dusk. The three of us will deal with the hyperdrive." "Got it, Obi-Wan. We'll be waiting for you on the dusk," Anakin said. "Let's go, guys." The two groups of people acted separately. After killing several waves of droid teams, Kenobi and the other two finally arrived near the hyperdrive. However, when they approached, a large group of droids surrounded the three of them from all directions. The three of them faced the Separatist forces back to back. From the direction where the three came from, a larger semi-humanoid robot came, its yellow eyes staring at them, and then said with a hint of sarcasm, "Hello, General Grievous." Obi-Wan said calmly, "Wait." War Machine pointed at the half-humanoid robot and asked, "Is that General Grievous?" "Ah, you must be happy to see someone as powerful as me," Grievous said arrogantly. "Seriously, this robot looks like it needs treatment. It looks like it's been poisoned." Ant-Man said loudly. Grievous said gloomily, "If I'm not mistaken, you two are members of the Avengers, right? You have been interfering in a war that doesn't belong to you. Do you want to die sooner? You are such an arrogant villain. I thought you were something special, but it turns out you are just this half-human, half-ghost." War Machine taunted. "I will tear you to pieces with my own hands," Grievous said angrily. "Kill them all," Grievous ordered with gritted teeth. Ant-Man immediately shrank, and Obi-Wan began to dodge the robot's blaster bombs. War Machine flew up and activated the weapons and equipment on his armor to start fighting back. The arm machine gun fired at the robots that kept pouring in, and the shoulder rockets shot at Grievous. Grievous dodged the rockets and pulled out two lightsabers. His hands began to spin rapidly, trying to deflect the bullets. The counterattack of the three completely angered the robot general, and he fell on all fours and turned into a strange form. War Machine and Ant-Man felt something was wrong and said, "We have to find a way to get out of here." Obi-Wan also saw that, although the robot task force that came in at the beginning was destroyed, more robots were on the way here. If the battle dragged on, it would be disadvantageous to them, so he nodded and said, "Okay, let's go." War Machine and Kenobi fled along the route cleared by Ant-Man, and Grievous chased after them. War Machine contacted Captain America while running. "Captain, we are in trouble. There are too many enemies here in the hyperspace engine. We need to think of a new way to shoot down this ship." After receiving the news, Captain America and his men stopped. "Then we will find a way. You try to escape to the dusk first," Captain America quickly replied. "Okay, it seems that we need to change the plan. What should we do now?" Falcon asked. "Let's go to the control room," Anakin said. "Why go there?" Captain America asked. Anakin said as he walked, "Set a trap for Grievous." "What do you mean?" Falcon asked in confusion. "Change the demons interstellar navigation system so that the ship crashes into Rishi and it won't waste any of our firepower." Anakin grinned. Captain America suddenly felt that he had seen this scene before, just like the feeling in Palpatine's office at that time, but he couldn't remember it. When they turned a corner and saw two battle robots, he could only temporarily put this strange question aside. "Look, GD," the robot on the right shouted, raising his blaster at the same time. Before he could fire the bullet, he was knocked down by the flying shield. Chapter 41 Victory. The Devil crashes. Meanwhile, Kenobi, Ant-Man, and War Machine were now busy dodging the attacks of the angry Grievous. His two arms had split in two, and now he was wielding four lightsabers at the same time, spinning rapidly to form a storm of sharp light blades, leaving the three helpless. "You fools," Grievous boasted. "I have been trained by Count Dooku and installed with the strongest metal the Separatists can offer. I have killed dozens of Jedi Knights and hundreds of clones since the beginning of the war. Yet, you can't seem to defeat us," War Machine retorted. "It's only a matter of time before I kill you three." "I've heard that many times." Kenobi also started talking nonsense. Grievous stopped talking and launched a fierce attack, vowing to crush the three to ashes. War Machine's arc pulse cannon was able to repel Grievous' lightsaber attack, and Kenobi also used his lightsaber to resist. After Ant-Man shrank, War Machine and Kenobi had no time to take care of him, but Grievous had to be on guard, fearing that Ant-Man would appear from nowhere and use his mysterious power to give him a fatal blow, so he was a little distracted during the battle. It turned out that his distraction did have a significant impact, because he was suddenly hit in the cheek by War Machine's left hook. Grievous let out a painful roar, but his battlefield adaptability was not bad. At the same time, he kicked War Machine's chest, causing War Machine to stagger back a few steps in embarrassment. Taking advantage of this gap, Grievous walked towards Kenobi with a lightsaber in hand. However, he just took a step forward and suddenly stopped. Then, without any warning, the metal plating on the arm holding the lightsaber was forcibly peeled off his body. Grievous' eyes widened in horror and began to shake constantly. His arm seemed to have a spasm and twitched wildly, and finally his entire mechanical limb became weak. "What's wrong with me?" he shouted in horror. "Oh man, I think you need to be sent back for repair." The shrunken Ant-Man had somehow gotten into Grievous' body, and he was pulling the main circuit components of Grievous's mechanical part while speaking. "Who's talking?" Grievous shouted as if he had seen a ghost, because the voice came from his body. "Oh, I'm your consciousness," Ant-Man said mysteriously in a low voice, and then he jumped to another wire and continued to pull. "My god, Ant-Man really did it. It's incredible," Obi-Wan muttered to himself, completely stunned. "Did what?" War Machine asked, confused by the reaction of Jedi Master Obi-Wan. "I always thought I was the only one who had a deep understanding of Grievous, but I didn't expect Ant-Man to be better than me and directly reach Grievous' consciousness," Obi-Wan said. War Machine blinked and was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Obi-Wan's interesting way of speaking made him laugh out loud on this serious battlefield. "Don't be happy too soon, you fools. In the face of absolute strength, all the tricks of pretending to be gods are paper tigers." Grievous roared and walked forward, but his legs shook, and he finally fell to the ground. Obi-Wan walked forward, wanting to take this opportunity to get rid of the notorious military leader of the Independent System Federation, but suddenly a large group of robots came from behind Grievous to protect their general. This made Kenobi and War Machine stunned. Grievous saw this brief moment and quickly hit the two distracted fools with his other two mechanical arms that were still functioning normally. After knocking them down, he hurriedly retreated behind the army of robots and stared at the front gloomily. "Guys, are you okay?" Ant-Man ran out of Grievous' body at some point, and now he has returned to normal size. He helped his two comrades up and asked with concern, "It's okay, we will get out alive." Obi-Wan rubbed his stomach and whispered, because at this time, with the army of robots in front of them and the powerful Grievous, they basically had no chance of winning. "We have to find a way to get out of here," said War Machine. "Yes, let's retreat." Kenobi nodded in agreement, and the three of them suddenly turned around and ran away, with the robot army behind them chasing them. Anakin, Captain America, Falcon and Padme have arrived at the control room of the demon. After destroying several robots in the control room, they began to move. "It's time to give that bastard Grievous a surprise." Anakin grinned. "I think we have to clean up here so that no one can see it," Padme suggested. Not long after, the remains of several robots were thrown into an elevator, and Anakin successfully modified the interstellar navigation system of the demon. "Okay, everything is done. Let's get out of here," Anakin said, and at the same time he called the R2 robot. "R2, prepare to start the dusk. We will evacuate immediately." Anakin and Obi-Wan's two teams shook off the chasing robots along the way, and were now running towards the dusk with all their strength. Soon, the two groups regrouped at the airlock entrance, with the dusk waiting for them on the other side. Anakin and the others quickly entered the spacecraft, hurriedly left the demon, and flew towards the Republic fleet. However, things were not that simple, and the angry Grievous would not give up. Although one of his mechanical arms was damaged by Ant-Man, he was leading the Vulture robot squadron to fire at the departing dusk at full force, and almost hit the dusk several times. The people on the dusk also fought back with all their might. As the dusk got closer and closer to the Republic fleet, Plo Koon also ordered the fleet to fire at the demon to protect the dusk's successful evacuation. When the dusk shuttled between the Republic fleet's firepower, the angry Grievous did not give up. He personally drove his fighter and chased after it like a venomous snake. "General Grievous." A robot's projection appeared on the communicator of Grievous' fighter. "What happened?" "The hyperspace engine has been fully repaired. Should we evacuate to a safe area now?" the robot asked. "Activate the hyperdrive and retreat immediately. I will meet you at the secret base in Sector 4. Grievous ordered while driving the fighter. Then he turned his attention to the dusk, which had successfully shot down two other Vulture robots. Grievous narrowed his eyes, increased his speed, and fired a shot at one of the engines of the dusk. On the dusk, the R2-D2 robot made a series of buzzing sounds. Gentlemen and ladies, we just received a message that the enemy ship is starting its hyperdrive. I hope your trap will work, Anakin. Falcon said. Trap? Obi-Wan asked curiously. What trap? This is a surprise. I can't say for now. Anakin said proudly. Grievous was chasing the dusk with all his strength. If he waited for the dusk to enter the Republic fleet, he would have no hope. Suddenly, the demon sent another call request, and he impatiently connected the communicator. General, our hyperdrive seems to have problems again. Didn't you say it was repaired? What's going on? Grievous roared angrily. There seems to be a problem with the interstellar navigation system. It has brought us to Rishi. The robot continued to report. Idiot, restart the navigation system immediately. Grievous warned angrily. On the demon, several robots tried desperately to control the course of the spacecraft because it had begun to fall towards the planet Rishi. But all this was in vain. In less than a few seconds, the demon slammed into Rishi, and the huge battleship ended its short journey. After Grievous learned of the situation, he decisively rejected Dooku's request to communicate and chose to flee. On the Hunter-class Star Destroyer, the Republic troops cheered and celebrated the end of a brutal war, and the 4 members of the Avengers and the Jedi Knights on the Dusk also breathed a sigh of relief. After a moment of silence, Anakin turned to Captain America and asked, "So, how was your first mission?" Captain America exhaled, leaned against the wall and shrugged, saying, "Well, a huge enemy ship crashed, and I wasn't on it this time." Everyone from the galaxy was a little confused by Captain America's words, while the other 3 Avengers couldn't help but laugh out loud, as they knew Captain America's past very well. Okay then. Obi-Wan didn't even think about what Captain America meant. He smiled and shrugged and said, "Let's go home." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Confused Quicksilver. On the planet Rylith, in a desolate and barren land, a young man with a grey face suddenly stood up and coughed violently. After panting for a long time, he sat down, rubbed his blurry eyes, and coughed a few more times. After his breathing stabilized, he slowly opened his eyes and found himself in a Gobi desert. What the hell? The man shouted in surprise, looking around, and found that the Gobi desert stretched to the end of his sight, seemingly boundless. He stood up and called in the communicator. "Hello, guys? Captain? Falcon? Wanda? Is anyone nearby or in the communication?" He tried for a long time, but got no response. Quicksilver, Petro Maximoff, scratched his silver hair, at a loss for a moment, not knowing where he was and what he should do, but he still thought he was in a Gobi desert on Earth at this moment. If it were before, with his impatient personality, he would definitely run impatiently and frantically to figure out what was going on. But after joining the Avengers, his impatient personality slowly eased. Quicksilver tried to contact others again, especially his sister Scarlet Witch, but again received no response. He stamped his feet in annoyance, sighed to himself, forced himself to calm down, squinted his eyes, and looked around until he saw a village in the distance. Quicksilver began to move his body and then rushed towards the village at full speed. The supersonic speed left only a blurry figure and a silver blue after image like a rocket taking off. The dust in the area where he had just stood did not follow him forward because of his extreme speed, but rose into the air on the spot and slowly fell for a long time until the dust settled, revealing an orange-skinned humanoid standing where Quicksilver had stood. This humanoid was the so-called Twi'lek, who had just tried to sneak up on Quicksilver, but was stunned by what he had just witnessed. Shamsindullah was a well-traveled resident of Rylith, having traveled to many places in the outer rim of the Milky Way. He had seen many Jedi Knights, warlords, bounty hunters, and the galactic war that now affected Rylith. But he had never seen a person who could run faster than lightning. TSK, nothing. Quicksilver threw away some pebbles and muttered to himself as he squatted on the ground. He was now in the center of an unfamiliar village. He was sure that these houses were of a type he had never seen before, and he was almost sure that these were not houses on Earth, because he could run half a circle around the Earth in 92 seconds. Quicksilver carefully examined this strange place and carefully entered one of the strange houses. He found that it was quite spacious inside, and there were not many furnishings except for what looked like a cabinet. He walked to a wooden door and suddenly opened it. There was almost nothing inside, except for some strange berries he had never seen before. Out of curiosity, Quicksilver picked up one and threw it into his mouth, then quickly spit it out, because the unknown fruit had gone bad. After leaving the house, Quicksilver checked several of the houses one after another, all of which were the same as the first one. He walked through the streets of the town with some impatience, until he came across an unusual device. One part of it was a square rectangular shape with two handles, which could be a controlled device or some kind of gun. All this indicated to Quicksilver that it seemed to be some kind of vehicle he didn't recognize. He turned around and sat on the brown metal seat and found that its design was similar to the motorcycle he had ridden before, except that this car had no wheels and was floating in the air. Quicksilver sat on the seat and swayed his body gently, and the floating car swayed with it. But Quicksilver still didn't understand why it could float in the air. Looking at the two handles, he couldn't help but grab them and twisted them, and found that they could actually rotate, and this twist accidentally opened it. After a buzzing sound from the engine, Quicksilver found that the hovering car was slowly rising. He couldn't hide his curiosity and excitement now, and leaned forward and twisted the handles, and it made several roars similar to those of a motorcycle. How cool! Quicksilver whispered to himself. He carefully inspected the hovercraft and found some kind of pedal on the left side of the vehicle. He boldly guessed that it was the accelerator and then gently stepped on it. His guess was proven to be correct because he felt the vehicle begin to fly forward. He jumped off the strange hovercraft. Even without a driver, the machine still flew forward. However, without anyone controlling it, it crashed directly into a house and turned into a wreck in an instant. Quicksilver was a little disappointed with the result of finally finding something in this desolate place, but now it has become a pile of slag. Suddenly, he heard a clearly strange sound echoing over the village. He slowly turned to the direction of the sound and pricked up his ears to listen carefully. Quicksilver frowned, thought for a while, and quietly approached the direction of the sound to avoid being discovered. He stopped at the end of an alley between two houses, carefully poked his head out, and saw a shocking scene. Many robots, standing in an orderly manner, like an army. They were unlike any robots he had seen before, and he was sure they were not made by Ultron or Iron Man. There were some skinny robots and some larger bulkier robots holding what looked like guns, moving like infantry troops. There were dozens of them in front, what Quicksilver could only describe as some kind of super tanks, and a dozen more behind them. They continued to move forward until a yellow leading robot raised his hand to signal them to stop. There's smoke coming from that direction. You three go check it out. The yellow robot gestured to the three robots closest to him. Quicksilver used his speed to dodge the three robots that were coming towards them. They walked towards the wrecked vehicle, and the middle robot asked in confusion, "What caused this? Rebels? Why would they destroy a flying car?" asked the one on the left. "How is this going?" The three robots were interrupted in their discussion by the questions of the other robots that arrived. "We found this crashed flying car, and it seems to have happened recently, but there are no bodies nearby," the middle robot explained. "Well, could this be a trap? It is said that the Twi'lek Revolutionary Army has a close relationship with the Jedi Knights. Search in a fan-shaped pattern with this place as the center, and check the houses and alleys here for survivors." "Well, what should we do if we find someone?" The yellow robot slapped the robot who asked the question and scolded, "Idiot, of course we should catch them." Quicksilver tensed his nerves and retreated cautiously while staring at the robots who began to search in different groups, some of which had already entered the room. Suddenly, Quicksilver heard a sound he had never heard before, echoing around the village. He looked up at the sky and saw a huge spaceship falling from the sky, which once again shocked his senses because it did not look like anything he had seen before. Is this the alien race that the old members of the Avengers faced 3 years ago? Exclamation mark. Whatever it is, To be honest, Quicksilver didn't want to stay to find out. He ran out of the alley at full speed and passed through the robots, leaving only a lightning-like blue light. What is that? What? A strange silver blue thing just ran past us. I did not see anything. Me too. What is that? I don't know. It was too fast. I couldn't see it clearly. Oh, never mind. Let's go quickly. Reinforcement have arrived. We must prepare to attack the Republic. Quicksilver ran at a very fast speed, as far away from the village as possible, until he was far enough away from the huge spaceship in the distance. He stopped, panting and looking around, and found that he was in a forest with a large area of unknown bushes. What should I do now? He asked himself, and found that he couldn't answer this question himself. He really didn't know what to do now. The longer he stayed here, the less he believed that he was in Europe. Unable to contact other people, he just saw a huge battleship, which was obviously alien. Looking back at the huge spaceship again, Quicksilver suddenly felt very small and lonely. He knew in his heart that at this moment, he had no teammates and was alone, which was different from any time before. He began to walk aimlessly and took out his cell phone, which still had a lot of battery, but no signal. He then checked his other pockets and was happy to find headphones in them. He plugged them in and played some calming music to ease his anxious mood. Chapter 43 Civilian Safety Comes First. Quicksilver hummed a tune carelessly along the way. It took him half an hour to walk out of the forest. What appeared in front of him was a canyon with a village in the middle of the canyon. This time, there were people in the village, but they could only be called humanoid creatures. Some of them spotted Quicksilver and stopped what they were doing to look at him. Quicksilver froze, his mouth slightly open, and he slowly raised his hands. There followed a long awkward and tense silence as the rest of the village also noticed the strange intruder. Hey, what's going on here? You should all pack up immediately and move on. We need to get you all to safety. Came a voice point. Then several people came out from behind these humanoid creatures. These people were wearing all white armor and carrying large rifles that Quicksilver did not recognize. What's going on? Asked one of the men in white and brown armor. A humanoid with orange skin pointed in the direction of Quicksilver without saying a word. All eyes returned to Quicksilver, who just stood there with his mouth open and his hands raised, motionless. One of the armored men saw that Quicksilver had raised his hands consciously and said majestically, "Now lie on the ground." Quicksilver was obviously unwilling to lie on the ground. Raising his hands was the limit of his goodwill. He said calmly, "I don't want to cause trouble. I'm just passing by." Just passing by? Another armored soldier repeated in disbelief. You just passed by a war-torn planet? How could it be such a coincidence? I'm afraid you won't believe it if I tell you. Wait, what? Quicksilver asked in shock. What did you just say? Okay, you said a war-torn planet. That's what you just said, right? Quicksilver asked loudly. The soldier in white armor was surprised, but he still said patiently, yes, the planet Rylith. It has been attacked by the Separatists for several weeks. Planet? Quicksilver muttered in disbelief. I'm on another damn planet? Hey, don't move, the first soldier who spoke to him said sharply. Quicksilver was so shocked by the news that he started running frantically. His incredible speed made everyone present open their eyes wide in surprise, because they had never seen anyone run so fast. Silver? A soldier yelled, getting Quicksilver's attention. Listen, we are in a war right now, and an army of robots is about to fire on this village, and every other village that hasn't been bombed. This made Quicksilver pause, and asked in confusion, robot? The soldier said hurriedly, yes, robots, the Separatist robot army. Suddenly, there was a burst of heavy gunfire. Everyone froze at the sound, followed by panic screams and the shouting of orders from the white armored soldiers. Vulture robots are coming. AAT tanks are coming. Then, there were deafening explosions and the cries of children calling for their parents. Quicksilver stared at all this in a daze, his heart beating faster and his breathing becoming rapid. He felt sweat beginning to gather on his forehead and his palms becoming wet due to nervousness. He seemed to see his parents die in the bomb, and he felt Wanda was beside him. Quicksilver took a deep breath and came to his senses. He saw a family of 4 huddled together and trembling in fear. A pink-purple sphere was about to fall on them. They closed their eyes in despair. Suddenly they felt a jolt, opened their eyes, and found their family standing intact on the west side of the village. Then, villagers suddenly appeared on the west side of the village one after another. All people could only see a vague figure running back and forth between the villages, bringing out more villagers. The sounds of blasters and bombs could be heard everywhere. An armored soldier ordered, "Everyone, use the alleys and ruins as cover. Number 6, go to that building and provide covering fire." Soldiers in white armor quickly took position and began firing at the oncoming robot army, which returned fire with all their might. "Keep firing. We need to buy time for the villagers behind us to retreat." "Sergeant, the villagers at the end of the team have evacuated the entire village." "What the?" Sergeant took the opportunity to glance behind him and saw that all the Twi'leks who had inhabited the village seemed to have completely disappeared, save for a few who stood there with confused expressions. Suddenly, without warning, a silver-blue blur took away an unsuspecting Twi'lek, then another, and another, until all the Twi'leks in the vicinity were gone. All of this happened in a matter of seconds. "What is that?" a nearby soldier asked in surprise. The thing the soldier was talking about completely destroyed several rows of battle robots in front of them like a plow. The white armored soldier had no idea how it happened. He could only hear the sound of metal being hit and bursting into pieces. Quicksilver stopped in front of them and casually threw a super battle robot's arm to the ground. Looking at the soldiers in armor, Quicksilver frowned and asked, "Well, do you still want to fight back?" Without waiting for an answer, he rushed out again, colliding with the nearest robot. The speed and momentum of his running caused the B-1 battle robot to stagger and crash into more robots. He did not stop there and continued to destroy and crush all the robots that appeared in his sight. All the soldiers in white armor stared at this astonishing scene with their eyes wide open. Some even took off their helmets and rubbed their eyes to make sure they were not hallucinating. No one could keep up with this man who seemed to be ignoring them and knew nothing about the galaxy. All they could see was the figure slowing down slightly as it attacked the droids, then speeding off again. The sergeant shook his head, forced himself to calm down, raised his rifle again, and shouted, "Come on, brothers. This crazy guy has created an opportunity for us. Now, concentrate your firepower and attack." His men heard the order and began to fire heavily at the robots attacking them. The enemy is in a state of turmoil at this point as they are now trying to figure out what is going on. But this does not stop Quicksilver from attacking the robots mercilessly. Quicksilver stopped and took a short rest to catch his breath, but his crazy provocation had successfully attracted the attention of the AAT tank, and the tank began to turn around and attack him. Quicksilver smiled contemptuously and started running at supersonic speed again, continuing to frantically attack robots wherever he saw. "He's got the tank's attention. Concentrate your fire on the nearest one," the sergeant ordered decisively. Following the sergeant's instructions, many armored soldiers without rocket launchers pulled out magnetic grenades and threw them at the nearest tanks. Their actions destroyed a large number of tanks. The troops were then split into two groups. Half of them stayed here to continue blocking the robot task force, while the other half went to look for Twi'lek villagers and take them away from here to the meeting point. 6. The sergeant asked over his helmet's comlink, "Where are the villagers now, sir?" "They are all gathered on the west side of the village. Everyone is there," Number 6 replied. The sergeant looked up and saw Quicksilver rushing towards a grey bulky robot at high speed, raising his knee and hitting the robot on the head. The fast and powerful force instantly destroyed its dome-shaped head before the robot could react. The sergeant smiled in awe and surprise beneath his helmet, then called out to Quicksilver. Quicksilver was busy attacking the robots when he heard someone shouting. Turning around, he saw the guy in the armor waving at him to come over. Quicksilver thought about it and appeared in front of the sergeant in the blink of an eye. "Wow. This is crazy," exclaimed the sergeant. Quicksilver said impatiently, "What's wrong?" "Well, listen, there might have been a little misunderstanding between us just now. You know, we are indeed at war, so you can understand, right? And you just saved the lives of all the villagers." Quicksilver let his guard down, shrugged and said, "This is part of my job responsibilities. Civilian safety comes first." The sergeant nodded in agreement and continued, "I know what I'm going to say next may be a little abrupt, but you just saved a lot of lives. My brothers and I and these villagers really need your help. to get them to join the Grand Army of the Republic. Come with us, we need your help. Besides, there will be nothing left here after we withdraw, and there is no point in you staying here. Quicksilver stared at the man for a moment, glancing back at the shattered village, then at the robot that had caused it. To be honest, everything he had just done was just instinct, but he knew clearly that he was no longer on Earth, but on a planet of Rylith. The scale of the attack he had just witnessed, and the droid patrol he had seen earlier in the first village he had reached, somewhat confirmed his earlier statement that the entire planet was at war at this time. Quicksilver remembered the views taught by Black Widow and Captain America on how to correctly view war and how to adapt to war. He sighed to himself, looked at the sergeant and said, "Okay, I'm with you. But I have a lot of questions to figure out, so I want you to answer honestly." The sergeant nodded solemnly. Chapter 44, Battle of Rylith 1. GD General Amagondan bravely stood with his clone troopers to fight against the oncoming Separatist battle droids. Next to GD Knight Amagonde was his trusted comrade and clone lieutenant, Captain Killy. The two stood side by side, fighting the robot army with all their might. Around them, the 71st Clone Legion and Twi'lek freedom fighters led by Cham Syndulla were firing on the Separatist forces. And several AT-10 all-terrain tactical assault walkers were creating a vacuum for the Republic forces. Their losses had mounted as the battle progressed, but every one of them was fighting stronger and stronger than since the beginning of the Separatist invasion of Rylith. Many strategic areas of the Republic have fallen and are occupied by the Separatists, and even the capital of the planet Rylith, Lisu, is under Separatist control. However, they remained vigilant and steadfast in their defense of this barren planet and the outer rim of the galaxy, simply because it was inhabited by the people of the Republic, the Twi'leks. Cham Syndulla gathered as many Twi'leks as were willing to fight in an effort to stop the Separatists from taking over their home planet. After repelling another wave of robot troops, General Amagonde took the opportunity to reorganize the battle formation and meet with Captain Killy and Cham Syndulla to discuss the next battle strategy and the current casualties. "Captain Killy, what is our current damage situation?" asked Cham Syndulla, leader of the Rylith Freedom Revolution. Killy stared at the roster fiercely and recited the numbers one by one. 28 clones died and 62 were injured. 23 freedom fighters died and 45 were injured. "The damage is more serious than last time," said Syndulla. General Amagonde had to admit the fact the Separatists have gained a foothold on Rylith, and they will be able to continue to provide more ground and air support. "What can we do now, GD? Can we just watch my people perish?" Syndulla asked sadly. "It won't come to that," General Emma said firmly with a steely look in his eyes. "Killy, start gathering all the troops. We need to leave here now and head to the base quickly." After receiving the order, Killy went to gather the troops. "Are we going to give up here?" Syndulla asked General Emma. "We have no advantage in this open area. Your freedom fighters are spread all over the planet, but my men are losing their lives at the same speed as you. I can't just abandon their lives for a city that has no meaning to defend." "Are you sure this is a wise choice?" Syndulla asked. "Even if we have excellent scouts, evacuation would be fraught with risk. I know every secret passage on this planet, but there is none here. General, if we retreat, we will only be able to passively take the fight. I've said before that this open area is not conducive to our combat operations. If we stay, we will be attacked even in this position." General Lama retorted. "Our forward combat base has more AT-10 all-terrain tactical assault walkers and light attack helicopters. We can hold on there until the Republic reinforcement arrive." Syndulla was about to retort, but was interrupted by Killy, who came to report the situation. "Sir, I just received word from Sergeant Grit and his reconnaissance team. The Twi'leks from Sector 2284 have been evacuated." General Emma said in a bittersweet tone. "This is the only good news we have received so far. Tell Sergeant Grit to rush to the forward combat base to meet us. Send a message to all teams to conserve their strength and not make unnecessary sacrifices." Killy nodded and issued orders to all the units that had not been destroyed by the Separatists. "If all the troops come back, how many people will we have?" Emma asked softly. Killy sighed, thought for a moment, and then said, "General, if we are lucky, there may be 600 or 700 people. but we sent 200 soldiers on a search and rescue mission to bring the Twi'leks to a safe place. Only one team has all-terrain tactical assault walkers as support, and the rest are riding speeders, and some can only walk. If these warriors can make it to the base smoothly, we will have people. But it's just an assumption. It depends on how many teams can reach the base safely. Emma knew clearly that not many of the 200 people could come back. Emma's expression suddenly became dazed, and Killy supported him and asked with concern, "Are you okay, General?" Emma blinked, rubbed her forehead, shook her head and said, "It's okay. The force has changed again, and I always feel weird." Killy asked, "Like before?" "General, I mean no offense, but I think it may just be a normal reaction. Judging from the messages from other GD generals, they seem to have experienced the same situation." Emma disagreed and said seriously, "Like other GD knights, I have undoubtedly felt a huge change within the force. Something is coming to the galaxy and to this war, and it will change the trajectory of the galaxy." Killy couldn't imagine such a scene. General Emma has always been known as a blunt, professional, yet loyal GD knight. When he was first assigned to the 71st Legion, in his own words, "I will not lead an army, but I will fight alongside you." This earned the 71st undying loyalty, so much so that the entire Legion painted a brown streak on their white armor to show their loyalty to GD General Emma. "We're 10 minutes from the combat base, just over there on the hill," Killy told Syndulla and Emma. Suddenly, there was movement in the nearby woods. Immediately, all the clones, along with several Twi'lek freedom fighters, pointed their guns there. Several familiar faces, more Twi'leks and clone troopers emerged from behind the trees and bushes. "Sergeant Grit, how's your mission going?" "General, Captain." Grit quickly saluted his two superior officers. To be honest, there were robot patrols everywhere. When we arrived at our destination, it took a while to evacuate everyone. Emma then asked, "Are there any casualties?" 7 dead and 22 wounded, General. "That's less than I expected." Keely couldn't help but blurt out, pleasantly surprised by the news. "All this is thanks to him," Greet said, pointing behind him. Emma and Killy looked in the direction that Greet pointed. It was a lone human man, wearing very strange clothes, and there were several Twi'lek children around him, looking at him with bright eyes. He seemed to like these young children very much. "Him?" Killy confirmed. "Yes, sir. His abilities are simply incredible and different from anything we have seen." Greet nodded. A few people approached the silver-haired young man who was entertaining the child with small pebbles. He was performing a magic trick, where he seemed to be able to make the pebbles between his fingers disappear in an instant, and then reappear on the children. What no one saw, however, was the sudden, winking movement of the man's arm. Only General Emma noticed that the silver-haired young man's arm moved so fast that it was almost invisible, and he could only barely see a blurry afterimage. He silently observed the silver-haired young man playing with the children. Power. It was not generated by this mysterious young man, but more specifically, it was around him, because the power concentrated in this man was incredibly strong. But now, Emma knew that this was not the time to delve into this, so he asked everyone to be ready for action within 3 minutes, and continue moving towards the combat base. Unfortunately, Sergeant Grip was the only one who completed the mission well. Team 3 only brought back half of its members, and there is still no news about Teams 2 and 4. The remaining troops of the 71st Legion totaled 650 people. Together with the hundreds of freedom fighters led by Syndulla, they had just over 1,000 people. It was undoubtedly an extremely difficult task for these 1,000 people to resist the attack of the robot army. Of course, now with the addition of Quicksilver, the outcome is still unknown. Chapter 45, Battle of Ryloth 2. "Captain Killy, how long do you think we can hold out here?" Emma said to his adjutant. "Sir, no more than a week." Killy said seriously, "It may be extended by a few days, if we only consider the food rations, but if the Separatists continue to attack us, then we can't hold out that long. The Republic's air fleet is gradually being destroyed by the Separatists, and the robots can now easily send more ground reinforcement, so what do you think we should do?" Emma asked. They were currently at an entrance between two high grounds. Further inside was their base, where most of the clone troopers and Twi'leks gathered. "We can only hold on, although I don't know how long we can hold on. We had to abandon a lot of strategic materials and equipment when we retreated, but even with these, we still have to hold on without food and water, and the result will be the same. No one knows how many attacks the robots will launch, so we can only hold on until we die in battle. Killy said frankly point. Although General Ammer would not admit it, the Separatists had undoubtedly been extremely successful in their assault on Rylith, and a large portion of the planet was now under their rule point. Although there are not many battles to come, each battle is crucial, such as the capital, resource areas and the Republic base. Sir, the enemy's dropship is coming. Emma saw the robot airdrop ships towing countless tanks in the distant sky. He immediately ordered, everyone, aim at those ships and attack with all your might. Killy and Syndulla nodded, and immediately took action. At the same time, the laser cannons of the AT-10 all-terrain vehicles aimed at the spacecraft, and began to fire. The Hyena and Vulture fighters immediately began to fight back. Although some airdrop ships were shot down, many of them finally reached the ground safely, and began to deploy troops. The B-1 and B-2 robots that came down from the dropship immediately firing at the clone army. Emma held a lightsaber, and Killy joined the battle with his DC-17 blaster. A storm of red and blue blaster fire began to rip through the droids, clones, and Twi'leks, killing and wounding many on both sides. The assault battalion moves, bypassing their ground forces, and concentrating firepower on their tanks. Killy commanded. More than a dozen AT-AT all-terrain vehicles moved forward at full speed, and although several of them were quickly blown up, they continued to fight tenaciously. The freedom fighters led by Syndulla also launched a charge. Many robots began to fall in large numbers, but the situation was far from as optimistic as imagined. More airdrop ships landed on the planet Rylith with more reinforcement. Before the battle began, Quicksilver sat alone in the shade of a tree, thinking about the various incredible people and things he encountered after waking up. He met an alien general called Demagonde, a clone commander named Killy, and Syndulla, known as the Twi'lek Point in short. Quicksilver had no idea what to do now, or where he was. All he knew was that there was a war in the galaxy, clone troopers, droids, the planet Rylith, the Galactic Republic, the Confederation of Independent Systems, and that he was alone in the middle of it. Point thanks to the Terrigen crystals and the isotope enhancements. His body has been completely transformed. He has faster reactions, faster speed, metabolism, etc. But his thinking ability has also been improved, making him impulsive, both in action and in thought. After he gained his superpowers, he doubled in every aspect, including his thinking ability. Iron Man has speculated that this may be the reason why he can perceive things so quickly while everything around him is slow and he is basically thinking fast. But that also means that there are probably a lot of things going on in his mind at once, and sometimes it can be a little confusing. So, there are a lot of questions running through Quicksilver's mind at this moment. Where is he? What is he going to do? Where are the rest of the Avengers? Is Wanda hurt? Is Vision okay? Are the others okay? Are they here? What are they doing? What should he do? The large number of questions made Quicksilver fall into pain and madness, until a string of silver bell-like laughter came, which made him wake up. When he opened his eyes, he saw the Twi'lek children running around, playing and fighting, and had no idea what was happening in this world. The scene before him reminded him of Sokovia, not the most hospitable country in the world to live in, but it was his home. He recalled Wanda, the other children, and their parents. Rylith, like Sokovia, was a place of constant conflict, and to be honest, seeing those robots attacking civilians and him joining in to fight them felt a bit familiar. He thought war was the same everywhere. Quicksilver smiled at the children who continued to enjoy their game, the peace being broken when the clone troopers were warned of the impending attack. Quicksilver tensed up as he watched the clones and armed Twi'leks running around, while the civilians moved to safer places under the command of the clones. While organizing the civilians to evacuate, Sergeant Grit yelled to Quicksilver, "Hey, hurry up, what are you doing here?" "It's Quicksilver." Quicksilver corrected, "What's going on?" "More robots coming," Grit said hastily, before picking up his rifle and leaving. "More robots?" Quicksilver muttered to himself. Around him, Twi'lek freedom fighters and clone troopers ran without hesitation toward the sounds of fighting. Now, Quicksilver has apparently realized that he has run into an interstellar war where two interstellar powers are at war with each other, and the planet Rylith is apparently just one of hundreds of worlds currently engaged in a fierce battle. Then again, evil robots attacking a village of innocent civilians is a little too familiar to Quicksilver, so he twisted his neck, smiled cruelly, and rushed forward at full speed. At this time on the battlefield, there were fewer and fewer clone soldiers, but they still stood firm in resisting the fierce attack of the robots, and there were only 3 AT-AT all-terrain vehicles left. Captain Killy, the right wing is about to be penetrated. Take a few teams to defend it. General Emma shouted to Killy, who was holding a blaster. What about you, General? Asked Keely. I will hold my ground. Go ahead, Killy, Emma said with a determined look in his eyes. Killy wanted to object, but seeing the Jedi's determination, he had no choice but to follow orders. Chapter 46 Break the Limit or Die. Emma was at the front, advancing with a dozen clones behind him, swinging his lightsaber to protect his clones from the blaster fire of the robots, destroying the robots nearby. Entering the enemy lines was not easy, and they lost another quarter of their men on the way, but it was a small victory, because the droid's attention was drawn to the Jedi Knights and 9 clone troopers, which gave the clones and Twi'leks in the trenches a chance to destroy large swaths of the droid force. However, the victory was short-lived as the hyena robots joined in, completely ignoring the lives of the robot infantry and continuously throwing bombs onto the battlefield. Amid the constant explosions, the robots, clones, and Twi'leks were all thrown out by the impact of the explosions. General Emma lay on the ground, his face wrinkled in pain, his armor scorched. He clenched his fists and forced himself to stand up. His vision was blurry, but he could still see his lightsaber. He reached out to grab the lightsaber, but he could hardly see anything. He didn't know where the people following him were. He only knew that there were only 3 clone troopers behind him, and a group of robots in front of him, their blasters pointed at him. Emma glared at the droid defiantly, and grabbed his lightsaber with shaking hands. Even if he asked the Republic for help, he knew he wouldn't be able to hold out much longer, but he couldn't let the droid kill his men before he died. Hearing the sound of blasters ready to fire, Emma let the force flow through him, and finally, suddenly, in front of his eyes, it seemed that all the robots were blown to pieces by an invisible force. Then one by one, the robots were blown up. In just a few seconds, Jedi Knight Emma couldn't even count the number of robots that were blown up. Then, someone stopped in front of Emma. What? A satisfying warm-up, Quicksilver said shamelessly, twisting his right arm and shoulder carelessly, shaking a B-1 robot head up and down in his left hand, then throwing it aside, looking at the stunned and silent Jedi, and jokingly asked, "Don't you see those robots are going to kill you?" Without waiting for a response, Quicksilver rushed forward again, shoulder slamming a B-2 super robot, before grabbing 2 B-1 robots and throwing them to the ground as he ran. Quicksilver grinned maniacally, clearly taking pleasure in fighting these annoying robots, and then quickly rushed towards a group of robots, destroying most of them. General Emma had recovered enough strength to provide at least some defense for his forces, and he had received word that a Republic supply convoy was on its way to Rylith. All they need to do now is hold on long enough for the rescue team to arrive. Killy, retreat now and order everyone to retreat to the base. General Emma ordered. What about him? Syndulla asked, pointing in the direction of Quicksilver. I'll go find him, Emma said. Quicksilver had just rescued a Twi'lek soldier from a horde of robots, and moments later he single-handedly destroyed them. Maximoff, Quicksilver, looked up and saw the humanoid alien named Emma running towards him with a laser sword. We need to retreat. If we stay here, even with you, the results won't be optimistic, said the Jedi. Quicksilver stared at the Jedi in a daze as he felt a great sense of exhaustion begin to envelop him. Despite this, he steeled himself and pulled himself together, knowing that he had to persevere. Go ahead. You and your soldiers retreat. I will hold them back, Quicksilver said. What? Emma asked in surprise. Aren't you going to retreat with us? There is a huge disparity in numbers between us and the robots. It is futile to persist here. Only when the Republic reinforcement arrive will we have a chance to fight back. Quicksilver looked at General Emma, shook his head firmly, and then said confidently, "Don't worry, they can't even see my shadow, they can't hurt me," Quicksilver said confidently. Just like that, Quicksilver returned to the battlefield again. His speed was faster, and as he broke through the limit speed, Quicksilver felt his muscles more painful, but he still gritted his teeth and persisted, destroying one robot after another. He could feel that his body had reached its limit, especially his arms, which would spasm and twitch every time he knocked down a robot point. At this time, 2 Republic airdrop ships came and delivered soldiers and weapons resources, but Quicksilver knew that even so, the clones were still very vulnerable, and the robot army could easily catch up with them and destroy them all. This is something Quicksilver won't allow to happen. So it's time to either break the limit or die. He felt his entire body vibrate with the potential the Mind Stone gave him, and Quicksilver disappeared from where he stood, leaving only deep footprints in the ground. Quicksilver ran a long lap and felt the severe pain in his legs. He concentrated his energy, clenched his teeth, and ignored the oncoming pain. His adrenaline began to surge, his heart rate increased, and he breathed heavily. With each lap, his running speed would steadily increase. What's going on?" asked a robot. "I don't know. He's doing something. Hey, guys, do you feel the breeze?" "Sure." Enough. The wind coming from the circle where Quicksilver was running began to get stronger and stronger, and some robots began to lose their balance and stand unsteadily. "Hey, what's going on?" Storm, wind, and dust began to sweep across the entire area where the robots were located, and as Quicksilver continued to run, the wind became stronger and stronger. At this time, even Quicksilver's vague figure could not be seen clearly, and only a glowing object could be seen spinning at high speed. Quicksilver gritted his teeth and roared. The speed of his tornado was so strong that many robots were immediately sucked into the vortex. Even the AAT tanks and a few Hyannis and Vulture robots could not escape. All the robot army was torn apart by the tornado. Emma, Killy and Syndulla standing in the base were all speechless at the sight. Suddenly, they felt something stop in front of them as the dust around them was blown up by a gust of wind. Coughing, Emma waved his hand to fan the dust away, and the person who appeared in front of him was none other than the obviously haggard and exhausted Quicksilver. Quicksilver said weakly and tiredly, "I've bought you a little time. From now on, it's up to you guys." He raised his shaking hands, coughed, and then said, "No need to thank me. What you can do is very simple. When I wake up, you have to answer my questions. Then." He fainted. Chapter 47, The Avengers and -039, First Press Conference in the Galaxy. Captain America has always been a pragmatic person. Since returning to the Jedi Temple, he has led the other 3 team members to spend every day in the library of the Jedi Temple, learning about the history of this vast galaxy through books. They know that it is almost impossible to fully understand the galaxy. But knowledge is power, and maybe one day they will find information about going home in a book. Therefore, the 4 of them divided the work and selectively learned about some things they thought they needed, such as the Galactic Republic, the Jedi Knights, the Sith, the Independent Galaxy Alliance, and of course the galaxy's flight technology that they care most about, because it is related to whether they can return to Earth. Among the 4, Ant-Man is the most serious and diligent. He learns as much as possible about how the flight technology of this galaxy works every day, and tries to combine it with their own flight technology. Captain America knows that he wants to return to Earth the most among all people, because whenever he has free time, Ant-Man will secretly put the photo of him, his daughter Cassie and Hope in the book, and look at it secretly. Of course, War Machine's 4-finger tactics were very effective in destroying the demon, so Jedi Knight Anakin often asked him and Falcon to explain some flying tactics to the clone pilots on Coruscant and stationed in nearby bases. On this day, the 4 of them were still sitting together in a corner of the Jedi Temple library reading a book. Suddenly, a soothing voice came. "The Force told me that there are 4 special people here, and it's true." The 4 of them turned around and saw an alien woman full of exotic style. Captain America immediately recognized her, Jedi Master Teresa. Teresa smiled and said, "Captain Rogers, I hope I didn't disturb you." "Not at all, we can just take a break." Captain America also smiled. Teresa nodded and greeted Falcon, War Machine, and Ant-Man. Then she spent most of her time quietly watching the 4 people, observing their relaxed way of talking, and the other 3 people, except Captain America, playing and fighting like children, all of which made her curious. "Master, is there anything we can do for you?" Captain America asked. Teletha pondered for a moment, asked a few people to sit down, and then said, "Actually, I'm very curious about your world." "Really? Why?" Falcon asked very bluntly. "I have lived for a long time. For many centuries, only Master Yoda can be regarded as my friend. I have studied many cultures, traveled through the galaxy dozens of times, and trained many Jedi apprentices. However, I have never met people like you, from a world without the Force. This makes me curious. I want to know more and learn more, because it is too boring for a person who has spent a long time to do something." Teletha said gently. The Avengers exchanged glances with each other, and then Falcon said, "Okay, what do you want to know?" At this time, in a corridor of the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda and Anakin Skywalker walked forward, and Master Yoda was criticizing Anakin's reckless behavior in the last mission. Suddenly, they heard a noisy sound coming from the library. Yoda walked towards the library and Anakin immediately followed. They walked to the place where the sound came from, and found that many young people, Jedi apprentices, scholars and Jedi masters were gathered together, and in the middle was one of the guests of the Jedi Temple, Ant-Man. At this time, Ant-Man was saying with great joy, "Earth, that's a home. It's very different from your planet here." A young man raised his hand and asked, "How is it different?" Ant-Man paused and said a little stutteringly, well, you see, the environment. Yes, the environment is very different." Everyone looked at this alien who was just passionate, but now became stuttering in confusion. Ant-Man pondered for a moment and said, "We see many planets here are single environments. In other words, single biomes. A planet covered with snow, a planet with only jungles, a planet with only water. Earth has all these biomes, and even more." War Machine promptly showed various pictures of many environments on Earth to prove that his teammates were not lying. Jocastanu looked at the picture and murmured to himself, "It's fascinating. How can a planet contain so many biomes? I've never seen such a place." Every planet in the known galaxy is known for its fixed biomes. The biomes in each star region may have the same properties, but there will never be different biomes on a planet. "This is incredible," an elderly Jedi scholar said puzzledly. "A planet can have many types of environments. I really want to see it." Teresa also said, "What is it like to live in such a world?" Jedi Master Torm asked loudly. "They are different. No 2 leaves are exactly the same. I can only say that there are many countries, factions, cultures, etc. on the Earth." Captain America replied, "How many countries are there on the Earth that you mentioned?" A Jedi Knight asked. "We can only say that there are hundreds of them at present. If we include the countries that have appeared in history, there may be thousands. I don't know too much." Falcon shrugged and said, "All on the same planet?" A scholar asked. "Well, almost." Scott confirmed this. "Awesome. Not as amazing as you think." Falcon muttered in a low voice. Only War Machine and Captain America heard his voice, and the latter pushed him, and the 3 of them laughed. Yoda let out a loud laugh, and everyone turned around and greeted Master Yoda respectfully. "Master Yoda." Jocasta said to the other Jedi Knights present in the same way. "Master." Captain America greeted Master Yoda with the other 3. "Captain Rogers, may I have a moment of your time?" Yoda asked. Captain America nodded, stood up and followed Yoda with Anakin. Yoda led Captain America and Anakin to a secluded part of the library, and the 3 of them walked into a separate room with 3 round cushioned footstools. "Sit down." Yoda pointed to the seat. "I want to discuss something with you." Captain America looked at Anakin, who just shrugged. "Master Yoda, what do you want to talk to me about?" Captain America asked straight to the point. Yoda said profoundly, "This galaxy has undergone tremendous changes. Before you arrived, there was no premonition, no hint from the Force. Only after you arrived, did the Force fluctuate. Time passed, the future was unclear, and everything was shrouded in a fog of uncertainty." Captain America couldn't understand what the little green goblin said. Fortunately, Anakin explained in time, Master Yoda wants to say that you and your Avengers have changed many things in the galaxy, and your arrival has caused fluctuations in the Force. What does that mean? Except for what you told me about the Force before, I really don't know what the Force is. Captain America asked. I understand, we understand, Captain Rogers. Yoda said, we find ourselves in a difficult situation. The Jedi Knights have never faced what we are facing now. Many doubts and fears are spreading in the temple. Wars, Sith, conflicts are raging, and your arrival is not of your own will. Captain America was a little confused. This little goblin was simply an old charlatan, talking nonsense. I think what Master Yoda is trying to say is that your arrival here is not your fault, and the Force fluctuations were not caused intentionally by you, Anakin explained quickly. Thank you for your explanation. Honestly, this Force feeling is a bit beyond my understanding. I understand your confusion, Captain Rogers. We will do our best to help you during your time here, Master Yoda said. At that moment, Anakin suddenly noticed that Captain America had been frowning since he first met him. Anakin thought of his mother, who was everything to him before Padme, but even now that he had the power of a Jedi, he could not bring his mother back. And now sitting in front of him was a man who was obviously worried about his missing friends. Granted, these friends had abilities that exceeded many people in the galaxy, but they were still in a galaxy far away from home, in unfamiliar surroundings. It was pure coincidence that the four of them could meet. But others, these Avengers had helped the Republic and the Jedi many times, and all they, the Jedi, gave in return was just to provide a simple shelter. Honestly, this was far from good enough in Anakin's opinion. With this in mind, Anakin looked at Captain America and said, Steve, I know you're probably still worried about your friends. If something like this happened to Ahsoka or Obi-Wan, I would be too. Captain America remained silent, allowing Anakin to continue. You and the others are free to join me and my fleet at any time if you wish. We will help you find your other friends. Anakin, you don't have to, you're right. Anakin interrupted him. I don't have to, but I want to do this. You've done a lot for us in a short time, and all we can do is help you find your teammates. Captain America could only stare in slight surprise at Anakin's blunt proposal. He didn't have some underlying motives like Chancellor Palpatine. He could sense that Anakin just wanted to help. Thank you, Anakin. Captain America said seriously. You're welcome, Steve. Anakin smiled. Yoda also smiled. After returning to the room, Captain America gathered the other three and said, get ready, we'll leave early tomorrow morning. Where to? Falcon asked curiously. Follow Anakin to the Quill system, which he is responsible for defending. As for why, you all know that we can't find anyone else if we stay in Coruscant. Captain America said. Chapter 48, Ella Secura calls for help. Captain America stands on Anakin's Toughness Hunter-class Star Destroyer and heads to the Quill Galaxy, because Anakin's fleet is responsible for stationing in the Quill Galaxy on the outer edge of the Milky Way, to prevent the Separatists from entering other galaxies. Now, the Avengers have been torn apart, and almost all members are scattered in various corners of the universe. Hawkeye and Iron Man are on Earth. Thor is unknown where he is doing. Vision, Wasp, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch and Black Widow are probably somewhere in this galaxy, and only God knows where Spider-Man is. But he believes that one day, they will reunite, fight together, and win together. Thinking back to the Earth, Captain America thinks that its defense seems too poor, and 11 superheroes recognized by the world are now missing. But Captain America's faith has never been any form of institution, government, or organization. His faith is people, and he firmly believes that, if the situation is critical, others will definitely stand up. Iron Man and Spider-Man are likely to have tried to find them. With the two of them on Earth, even if he and several others are missing, the two of them will protect the Earth with others. Now, his first task is to find the other missing Avengers, and bring them together. At this time, Ant-Man was resting on the side, and Falcon and War Machine were learning how to fly a starship from the clones not far away. Are you enjoying the scenery? Captain America turned his head and saw Ahsoka Tano walking over with a friendly smile. Captain America nodded to her slightly and then turned his gaze back to the endless vast space in front of him. To be honest, it's a bit overwhelmed. Standing in this boundless universe, I realize how small I am. Captain America said. Ahsoka crossed her arms and muttered in thought, I can't remember how many times I have seen such a view, but I never really took the time to appreciate it. On the contrary, I felt a little bored. I never thought that one day I would appear in the universe. I always thought that I would fight for the Earth until I died. But then again, my job itself is full of various emergencies, and I should have foreseen this situation. Captain America said. The conversation between the two fell into silence. Captain America looked at Ahsoka, a young girl no more than 15 years old. She was involved in a war. This would not happen on Earth, at least not on the side of justice. But Captain America knew that war often forced people to do things against their will. Going deep into the war was to keep more people away from war. How do you feel? Anakin's voice came. Captain America looked back at Anakin, who was walking over, shrugged and said, I'm glad, at least we are now on a ship full of friendly atmosphere. Suddenly, a communication call interrupted their pleasant conversation. General Skywalker, this is Admiral Yularen. Please go to the command room immediately. There is an emergency. Anakin looked at Captain America. He gestured in the direction of the command room, and Captain America nodded. The three began to run quickly towards the command room. At the same time, Captain America asked the three Avengers to be on standby at any time. They soon arrived at the command room, and Yularen was waiting for them anxiously. Yularen saw the three and immediately said, General Skywalker, we have received a distress call from a Jedi Knight. She is under heavy attack from the Separatist fleet. It seems to be on a planet controlled by the Separatists. Anakin immediately ordered, let the fleet prepare for hyperspace travel. Admiral, we will rush there immediately. Received, General. Yularen said, and quickly issued an order. Anakin walked to the communicator and turned on the holographic communication, only to find that the other party was Aayla Secura. Aayla said in a relieved tone, Skywalker, I'm glad to see that someone received my message. Ahsoka Tano, Captain Rogers, it is nice to see you too. Captain America immediately asked, how is your fleet? The Separatists surrounded us from all sides, and all the ships were attacked. They are planning to clamp down on our actions. Aayla answered succinctly, while giving instructions to her troops. We are on the way. Aayla, try to hold on, we will be there soon. Anakin said, I'll be waiting for you. Aayla said in a soft but firm tone before the communication ended. Captain America hurried away, leaving Anakin and Ahsoka behind, the former with a thoughtful look on his face. Ahsoka noticed this. Master? Are you okay? Anakin pondered for a long time when the fleet entered hyperspace, and said, little boy, I'm not so sure. The Force, it's acting a little strange. Do you feel it? Ahsoka stared at her master, then lowered her head, closed her eyes, and carefully sensed the Force. What greeted her was the familiar feeling of chaos again. This feeling became more and more frequent in the Force field. The fluctuations of the Force have been like this since the arrival of the Avengers, and now. Master, what do you think this means? I have some guesses, but I'm not sure yet. All we can do now is wait and see what happens. Anakin said truthfully. Captain America returned to the hangar and saw the clone troopers and pilots making preparations for the battle. He saw at a glance that Falcon, War Machine and Ant-Man had already prepared their combat uniforms and were talking to several soldiers. He jogged over to them and saw that one of the soldiers had a 5 tattooed on his temple. Captain. War Machine greeted him. What happened, Captain? Falcon asked. The Jedi Knights need reinforcement, and she is someone I know. Captain America explained quickly. Who? Ant-Man asked curiously. Her name is Aayla Secura. Oh, from the 327th Legion, right? A clone trooper spoke. Captain America looked at the soldier and noticed that there were 4 of them in total. War Machine reacted and said, oh, by the way, you haven't met yet. Captain, this is the Domino Squad. I knew them when I was in Rishi. Captain America nodded and said, I know you. At the same time, recalling the names of the 4 clones in his mind. Number 5, right? Yes, sir. Number 5 pointed to his tattoo and said, I'm Burden. The clone holding the machine gun stepped forward. This is Echo and Strange. Nice to meet you, sir. Me too. Captain America said, extending his hand and shaking hands with Burden. It's nice to see soldiers like you helping my friends. We owe Colonel Rhodes a lot. Echo said sincerely, and the other three nodded. It's nice to see him making new friends. Captain America said in a joking tone. God knows how his friendship with Tony prevents him from making new friends. War Machine just rolled his eyes silently. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Combat. Aayla Secura, the most charming female general in the Jedi Order, stood on the bridge of her Hunter-class Star Destroyer, doing her best to command her troops to defend. She no longer expected to defeat the Separatists. Now, her greatest hope was to keep all the soldiers alive in this battle. Commander Bly, what is the status of the other ships? As 2 has been destroyed, General. Bly said seriously. Have you found the escape pod? Aayla asked with concern. Not yet. If you can contact them, tell them to abandon the ship and not to make unnecessary sacrifices by sticking to the battleship. In my eyes, the lives of soldiers are far more important than a battleship. Do it now, General. Bly looked at the beautiful and kind Jedi female general and said sonorously. Bly ran away quickly, and Aayla shouted to the other crew members, everyone, report the current situation. We are barely holding on, our shield energy is rapidly decreasing, and more than half of the blaster cannons have been destroyed. A pilot said frustratedly, half of our fighter squadron has been damaged. Another clone reported. Aayla clenched her fists. She hated to hear about the casualties of the clones, because her 327th Legion had been very loyal to her in the short time since the war began. What she didn't know was that the clones of the 327th Legion were loyal to Aayla because they were moved by her beauty and kindness. Good friendship is often mutual. Bly is an excellent adjutant. He has sharp reactions and combat awareness. Aayla often discusses battle plans and strategies with him. But now, all they can do is hold on and wait for rescue. Hurry up, Anakin. You are our only hope. Aayla murmured to herself. At this time, Anakin, Captain America, and Admiral Yularen had quickly formulated an action plan. We need to act on both fronts. Judging from the extent of the damage suffered by General Secura's fleet, it is only a matter of time before the Separatists destroy them. Yularen pointed to the battlefield and said, they seem to be slowly encircling Aayla with a pincer tactic. If we suddenly attack their rear, we can put them in chaos. Captain America analyzed. In this way, we have the opportunity to send some armed helicopters and fighters to support Aayla's fleet. Anakin added. Prepare the helicopter gunships and fighter jets, Rex. Anakin instructed. The fleet was about to leave hyperspace and enter the battlefield. Captain America also left quickly, found the other 3, and made simple pre-war arrangements. We are about to arrive at the battlefield. Falcon, War Machine, you 2 fight on your own in the air, and man, you and I will act together. The 4 ran into the hangar and saw a row of helicopter gunships, Y-wing bombers and V-19 Torrent fighters all started their engines. Anakin, Rex, Captain America and the other 3 Avengers teammates boarded the helicopter gunship. Falcon held a blaster in his hand and put on the respirator provided by the clones. Soon, the Star Destroyer entered the atmosphere of the planet Quill and immediately engaged in a firefight with the enemy. Helicopters, bombers, and Torrent fighters all took off from the Star Destroyer and other small fighters began to attack the Separatist starfighters. In an instant, the battle began fiercely. A squadron of V-19 Torrent fighters used the 4-finger tactic and successfully shot down a group of Vulture droids at the cost of losing a V-19, which undoubtedly boosted the morale of the Republic fleet. General Secura, can you hear me? The reinforcement have arrived. Anakin said through his wrist communicator. You are so timely, Skywalker. Aayla's excited voice came from the other side. Then she quickly explained the situation. Our energy shield has been penetrated, and the life support system has been damaged. I will use the gunship to assist in evacuating your troops. Anakin instructed. Skywalker, thank you very much, but if I withdraw, you will be in trouble. My ship is already crawling with super battle robots, and they have boarded my ship. That's why I came to reinforce you, and we have a full plan," Anakin said, and signaled to Captain America. Captain America nodded and said, "War Machine, Falcon, start moving." War Machine and Falcon jumped from the gunship and began to fight with the flying super robots. Their advanced weapons and tactics fiercely destroyed the surrounding robots. "I want to buy me a suit like this, it's so cool," Heavy muttered, and Echo, 5, and Stooge all nodded in agreement. Falcon easily shuttled among countless robots. He grabbed 2 robots in midair, spun quickly in the air, and then threw the 2 super robots like grenades into the robot group, causing a wide range of damage. At the same time, the firepower on the War Machine armor was fully opened, and his automatic machine guns were shooting at the robots left and right. Rockets also continued to attack the Vulture robots fiercely. At the same time, Captain America and Ant-Man were approaching Arla's Star Destroyer in an armed helicopter. As they got closer and closer to Arla's Star Destroyer, their armed helicopter shook more violently because some super robots and Vulture robots had discovered them and began to fire at them to prevent them from getting close and rescuing the people on the Star Destroyer. Anakin looked forward and saw that many robots had entered Sekira's Star Destroyer. "Those robots are boarding Arla's ship," Anakin shouted. "Master, what's the plan?" Ahsoka asked. Anakin said impulsively and recklessly, and then jumped out of the helicopter gunship, landing on a super robot, and then used other robots as springboards, and finally directly entered the rear cabin of Arla's Star Destroyer with a big hole blown out. When approaching a super battle robot, Captain America threw out his shield and smashed it into the upper body of the robot, while Ant-Man had tacitly shrunk and stood firmly on Captain America's shoulders. The robot hit by the shield immediately began to fly around irregularly. The moment it approached the armed fighter, Captain America quickly jumped onto the robot, and then the robot accurately flew into the big hole in the rear cabin of Arla's spaceship and disappeared in the shocked eyes of the clones and Ahsoka. "My god, these guys are crazy," Zongdan said loudly with obvious admiration. "I always thought General Skywalker was wild enough," Rex muttered to himself. "Otherwise, how could the 2 of them sympathize with each other?" Ahsoka said expressionlessly. Anakin, who came in first, was in the corridor, holding a lightsaber and fighting with the robot. Hearing a thump behind him, he turned and saw Cap fling his shield forward at the wall, bouncing it diagonally, slicing through droids like a sword until it hit a slanted dent and bounced back into Cap's hand with pinpoint accuracy. Anakin and Cap smiled at each other and stood side by side as the remaining super battle droids turned their attention to them. Suddenly, several of the droids in front twitched violently before falling to the ground, and Ant-Man appeared out of nowhere and kicked the droid closest to him before shrinking back down again. Outside, the gunships were getting closer and closer to the damaged Star Destroyer, and Ahsoka, Rex, and Team Domino Bone jumped into the hole. Other gunships began firing at the super droids lying on the hull of the Star Destroyer. Meanwhile, the Republic Starfighter Squadron, along with the Falcon and War Machine, drew most of the droids' attention, allowing more gunships to enter the hangar bay of Arla's Star Destroyer to support the 327th Legion. Inside the spaceship, Captain America, Skywalker, and Ant-Man led the later Rex, Domino Bone team, and Ahsoka forward until they saw Arla Sekira fighting against the robots together with Lieutenant Bly and several other clones. "It's great to see you, Skywalker, Ahsoka, Captain Rogers, Mr. Language," Arla greeted. "It's great to see you again, Arla," Captain America also said with a smile. "Skywalker, I hope you didn't rush in without a plan." Arla knew Anakin's personality well and said in a joking tone. Anakin smiled confidently and said, "As we speak, I have already had my fighters and gunships evacuate your spaceship and arranged for a frigate to meet us in the lower hangar." Chapter 50, Successful Emergency Landing. At this point, the frigate was floating near the docking bay, carefully making sure it was properly aligned with the ship as the massive Star Destroyer began to fall into the planet's atmosphere. The clone pilots maneuvered the frigate so that it was soon level with the lower hangar bay. "Activate the docking port," the lead pilot instructed. Everyone on the Star Destroyer was heading to the lower hangar bay, led by Arla. "Right ahead," Arla shouted. After running for a few seconds, they saw the docking bay door. "We made it," Ahsoka said happily. However, as everyone ran towards the door that Ahsoka opened, Anakin looked back in horror as a violent explosion was coming towards them. "No!" Anakin roared, and he pushed everyone into the docking bay and then closed the door. "Master!" Ahsoka shouted desperately. "Anakin!" Captain America pounded on the metal door with his fist. On the other side of the hatch, Anakin closed the second door before the explosion hit, but it was obvious that the energy of the explosion was too great, and the second door soon gave way, throwing Anakin, who was struggling behind the door, back and falling heavily to the ground. Ahsoka finally opened the door and saw Anakin lying on the ground unconscious and anxiously shouted, "Master!" Captain America quickly grabbed Anakin and brought him into the frigate. The corvette frigate flew towards the Endurance, and the droids began to turn their fire and attack the frigate. "Falcon, War Machine, we need cover," Captain America said through his communicator. "Easier said than done, Captain." Sam grunted, dodging 2 vulture droids. "This place is fucking disgusting." As crude as Lieutenant Wilson's assessment of the battle situation may be, it is too risky for the frigate to dock at the Endurance, General Sekira. Admiral Yularen interrupted. "We have no choice, Yularen. Skywalker was seriously injured during the evacuation and must dock at the Endurance for treatment," Arla said firmly. "Are all GD so reckless?" Yularen asked, half jokingly and half frustrated. "Only good people would be like this," Arla joked with a mischievous smile. The corvette frigate approached the Endurance's docking bay and began to dock. Several vulture robots flew in and fired at the ship at the same time. The frigate shook violently, and a clone pilot lost his balance and fell forward. His helmet hit the control device, and the control panel indicators flashed randomly. "Hyperspace drive is activated," Bly said in horror. "Turn it off," Arla shouted frantically. "It won't turn off." On the Endurance, the alarm sounded, which made Admiral Yularen very worried. "General Sekira, what happened?" he asked nervously. "Our ship is damaged. The hyperspace drive was accidentally triggered. You need to detach immediately," Arla said hurriedly. "Captain, my monitor detected an energy spike. What's going on?" War Machine called to ask. "It seems that Ant-Man and I are going to go for a ride in space. You two should return to the Endurance immediately," Captain America said calmly. "But Captain, return to the Endurance immediately, Falcon. Believe me, we will be fine." The Endurance separated from the corvette frigate in time, and then the frigate flew into the depths of hyperspace. "Monitor and search for the trajectory of their spacecraft. Once we are over this battle, go find them immediately," Yularen ordered. Falcon and War Machine returned to the Endurance, both of them with worry in their eyes. Falcon was not used to being separated from their captain in a strange galaxy. Now all he could do was believe that Captain America and Ant-Man would be fine. A lone Republic corvette frigate was sailing in the hyperspace tunnel. There was a seriously injured GD Knight on board, and the other few people were a little helpless. Ant-Man suddenly lamented loudly. "It's great, the 4 of us finally met, and now we are separated again, and I don't know where the others are." "Relax, Ant-Man. Falcon and War Machine can take care of themselves, and we will reunite with them again, including the others," Captain America said calmly, while helping Ahsoka move Anakin to the medical cabin. At the same time, Ahsoka frowned and looked down at her master. Fortunately, his heartbeat was stable, but his overall condition was not good. "Ahsoka, don't worry, he will be fine," Captain America comforted softly. "I have never seen Master injured like this," Ahsoka said with her hands clasped. "Ahsoka, this is war. Ant-Man, Falcon, War Machine, the other Avengers, and even Arla have all encountered such injuries before, but they have survived. Anakin is a strong man. He will not be defeated by this little pain." Ahsoka raised her head and gave Captain America a grateful smile. Arla Sekira walked in. She glanced at Anakin and asked, "Is everything alright here?" "Alright." Captain America shrugged and said, "How are the clones and the ship?" "The soldiers are all fine, but the trajectory of the ship is a little out of control." "Ahsoka, please go to the cockpit and temporarily assist Bly," Arla said. "General Sekira, I really want to help, but I have to stay here to take care of my master," Ahsoka said firmly. "You go to assist Bly to help your master." Only by getting the ship back on track can we take Anakin to a safe place. He can't get effective treatment on this frigate. And Captain Rogers and Mr. Lang are here. They can take care of Anakin temporarily. Arla said patiently. Ahsoka bit her lower lip and wanted to argue, but she knew that Arla was right. Just as she was about to go to the cockpit, Lieutenant Bly suddenly came in and said seriously, "General Sekira, we have encountered a serious problem." "What happened?" Bly frowned, walked to a terminal display, and said, "In our hasty escape, the coordinates of the navigation system were entered incorrectly and cannot be changed. Now we are heading towards a star." Ant-Man shouted in shock, "What?" "Ant-Man, stay here and take care of Anakin," Captain America ordered. Then Captain America and the others left the medical bay and rushed to the cockpit. On the way, they saw the Domino team, Rex and 3 other clones working hard to repair the damaged parts of the spacecraft. After entering the cockpit, Bly and Ahsoka sat down, while Arla, Rex and Captain America looked on. Both of them frantically pressed the operating buttons, flicked the switches, and tried to reset the navigation system, but nothing worked. "It's no use," Bly finally announced in frustration. The navigation system was damaged in the explosion. "Turn off all power circuits to reset the navigation system," Arla ordered quickly. "But Master Anakin's life support system will also stop working," Ahsoka said. "He will last a few seconds, and we need this time," Captain America said. "Captain Rogers is right, Ahsoka," Arla said. Ahsoka bit her lower lip, gripped the joystick tightly, and said, "Turn off the main power supply." Arla motioned Captain America to the control panel and said, "Captain Rogers, press this with me at the same time, and then hold that joystick." Following Arla's instructions, the two completed the operation, and then looked at Ahsoka. "Prepare to shut down the auxiliary power," Arla said, and she and Captain America gripped the joystick at the same time. Ahsoka shut down all the power supplies. The ship was very close to the hot lifeless star, and it was still approaching quickly. "We have left hyperspace, and now we have restored all operational permissions," Bly shouted loudly. Captain America and Arla quickly pulled the switch, and Ahsoka immediately started the engine. The ship barely passed through the atmosphere of the star, and everyone could feel the intense heat radiating from the star until Ahsoka flew out of its range. At this time, the warning sound of the damaged thrusters came. Ahsoka sat weakly in the driving position and announced, "Okay, we won't hit any stars now, but we will hit a planet." Rex walked to the ship's radio and said, "Everyone, prepare for impact." Ahsoka held the control device firmly and said to Bly, "Get ready to operate with me and stop the ship." Bly nodded silently. The ship shook violently when entering the planet's atmosphere, and the engine caught fire instantly. "It's now." Ahsoka and Bly both pulled up the lifting lever with all their strength. Finally, a few seconds before the impact with the planet, the head of the ship was pulled up, and the back half of the ship hit the ground first. Everyone escaped by luck, including the unconscious Anakin. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.